Okay, I'm going to trust that we are all here. We have a quorum, so I'm going to call this special legislative meeting of the Town Council of Riverdale Park to order at 7:35 p.m. Good evening, members of the council, members of the public. Please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence or silent prayer as your conscience finds appropriate. Thank you. Please be seated. Members of the council, you have an agenda before you. Are any changes needed to that agenda? And are there any conflicts of interest that any of you have for any items on this agenda?
I have neither.
I'm going to take the muted microphones of the other council members as being a statement of the same. And so, as such, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
So, second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Lingua to approve the agenda as submitted. Are there any comments on this motion? Any discussion about the council? Are there any public comments on this motion? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote, and hopefully I'll keep my council members in order this time. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
And Councilmember Calon is not in attendance, so I abstain. The motion passes 4-0. That brings us to presentations. First presentation, Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign and Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue Redesign Projects. Mr. Rodney Tissue, TRP Special Projects Coordinator, and Brian White, Mead and Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's really good to be with you all again. I am the Special Projects Coordinator for the town to keep these two particular projects moving. And Brian White from Mead Hunt is with me tonight as well. He designed the concepts and will hopefully help me answer any questions that you have. I'm really looking forward to this part of the project. It's been a while getting here, but now we're at the point where we have concepts and we can start kicking around ideas with the ultimate goal here. Our quest is to get a selected concept for each of the two projects to the Mayor and Council for your approval later this summer. So tonight what I'm going to do is go through some preliminary background information, and we have 4 concepts for the town center. Then we can discuss that. Then we have 3 concepts for the Natoli Lafayette traffic issue, and then we can discuss those. But please, as I'm going through, don't hesitate to stop me. Ryan will be running the slides. So next slide, Ryan. So the project kicked off last fall. We collected data, did our base mapping, and then we had tremendous public input in December and January, received a lot of good feedback. And from that feedback, we developed the concepts that you're going to see tonight. So we're at the red text of this process where we're continuing now to get public input on these concepts. And we have a couple more public meetings coming up that we'll talk about here in a while. And the public input deadline for this phase is June 3rd. After we get all this feedback, then we're hoping to refine and finalize and make a recommended concept to the Mayor and Council for approval this summer, hire a consultant to do the design work, and then do the construction in the near future. Next slide. So as a reminder, there was design constraints that I wanted to make sure everyone was continuing to be aware of. First off, obviously the CSX rail line is not going to move. There are utility poles in the town center that are substantial and they cannot feasibly be moved. The Maryland State Highway Administration's told us that they don't want us to build any raised curbs or trail under the 410 bridge. We recognize that Maryland Avenue must be maintained between Queensbury Avenue up the hill to Riverdale Station. in some form or fashion. Free parking is desirable, but we believe that some of it can be removed, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. We know there's public bus service in the area. We have to maintain their routing and accessibility. And we know there's delivery trucks that are critical to the businesses in this area, and we want to accommodate them and, if possible, have them not block any of the main traffic, especially on Queensbury Avenue. Next slide. And we always want to improve the aesthetics whenever possible. So I'm going to show you these concepts tonight. There's probably many variations of each of those, but they're all viable from an engineering standpoint. And we feel like we've captured kind of the major alternatives for the two projects. And hopefully one of those could be refined and will become the selected version as we go through this process. Next slide. So the goals for Town Center, and this is basically what we heard from the public in the earlier meetings, is first off, we want to improve pedestrian and cycling safety in the Town Center. That we heard that loud and clear. We want to channelize and separate the trolley trail if possible for several reasons. We want to channelize and separate Maryland Avenue from other pedestrian and bicycle traffic. We want to minimize the parking loss as much as we can. We have to facilitate the farmers market and other public events that are in that area. We want to allow for business deliveries, and we want to improve the aesthetics. Those are the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So next slide. Before we get into the next slide, Ryan. Before we get into the concepts, I did want to talk a little bit about parking in the Town Center. So in the Town Center, there are 78 spaces, and that's not including what I call the CSX lot east of the railroad track. It's not including parking under 410, and it's not including parking south of Queensbury on Rhode Island. There's another 50 spaces or so in those three areas. But just in the Town Center, there's 78 spaces. So we wanted to find out on a typical business day, how much utilization is there? So we went out on a Wednesday in March, and this is the data that we collected, that the peak usage was around lunchtime, which makes sense, where 51% or 40 of the 78 spaces were utilized. So from that standpoint, you could say potentially losing some spaces may not be too impactful, when you also consider there's another 50 spaces within 100 feet of these. Next slide, Ryan. Then how is the parking used? So we counted the duration of how long the cars were parked there. And by and large, the majority of them were there for 2.5 hours, 2 hours or less. But I will note on the right-hand side of this graph, there were 10 cars that were there the entire time. And what that would tell me is, I'm not suggesting that you'd have metered parking, but maybe in our final design, we would have a consideration for hourly parking, like 2-hour parking, to try to minimize people parking there all day long, if that's what the town desires. All right, so go ahead and go to the next slide, the concept. So let me orient you on these concepts before I go too far. This is the first one for the Town Center. On the right-hand side, up and down the page, is Highway 410. The CSX rail line is horizontally across the bottom. Queensbury is at the left-hand side, up and down through the page. So on these drawings, always north is to the right and east is down the page. So this is the first concept. It improves bicycle and pedestrian safety. The trolley trail aligns with the trolley trail south of Queensbury Road, and that's going to be true of all of these 4 concepts that you're going to see. I think it's a critical design element, that it makes a good alignment there. The Maryland Avenue is channelized between the trolley trail and the CSX rail line. There is a raised crosswalk about midway the bluish area on there for pedestrians to be able to leave the parking area and go over to the train station. But the nice thing about the raised crosswalk is it also slows traffic on Maryland Avenue. This scenario loses about 30 of the 78 spaces, and there's room for a small plaza. That's the reddish areas on the left. You'll see those in the concepts. The red representing brick or whatever the plaza turns out to be could be expanded and provide a nice public space. The parking on this scenario, you enter the parking lot near 410, and it's what I would call dead end parking. You go in, hopefully you find a space and park. If not, you have to make a 3-point turn at the end and come back out at the same place. Not necessarily desirable, but it's done many times in many places. The second concept, go ahead and go to that one, Ryan. Thank you. This concept also improves bike and pedestrian safety. The trail is channelized and aligned. It does align across from on Queensbury from the existing trolley trail. It does not cross Maryland Avenue in any way, so it would be favorable from that standpoint. Maryland Avenue is again channelized at the bottom of the page towards the CSX line. In this scenario, we have one-way circulation of parking where you would enter the parking near 410 and you would loop around and then come back out midpoint of the town center near that raised crosswalk. This one loses 28 spaces, which is probably about the least of any of them, but it allows for a much bigger plaza out near Queensbury if that is desirable. Let's go to the next one. This one also improves pedestrian bike safety. The trail is kind of in its historic location where it kind of slices through that area. But to make that happen, Maryland Avenue has an S curve in it, and it is directed to Queensbury opposite Rhode Island Avenue. So the immediate question most people have on this is, can trucks and other vehicles make this maneuver? Garbage trucks, buses, fire trucks could all make that maneuver. Trucks under 40 feet long could do it, but tractor trailers could not. So this loses the most parking, but that's because this has the most potential for lots of plaza area. When we discussed this concept with the Walk Bike Drive Committee, there was a lot of good discussion about there's variations of this, and that's when we developed 3A. And let's move on to that one, and I'll show you what I mean by that one. And then we'll discuss these. So in 3A, Maryland Avenue, let's say you're heading southbound, you go under 410, immediately you would turn right and make a hard left, make that S turn, and then proceed down to Queensbury Avenue opposite Rhode Island Avenue. In this scenario, the trail would cross at a raised crosswalk across Maryland Avenue and then proceed from there. You'd still have a very generous plaza area, but it's all limited to the area out towards Queensbury. Both 3 and 3A moves Maryland Avenue directly in front of the businesses, which I think there would be a lot of different opinions on that, but that was something specifically asked for by some of the people at the public meeting. So we felt like this scenario was one that we wanted to present. This particular scenario, 3A, loses about 33 spaces instead of 40 that were lost in number 3. So I went through those really quickly, but I'm going to stop here and offer for you to make comments, questions, or any suggestions that you would have for us on the town center proposals.
Thank you, Mr. Tissue. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for this presentation and for all the work on it, Mr. Tissue. I really appreciate it. I'm wondering if you could speak to the section of the trail that runs under the 410 bridge. And my concern, if I'm looking at the maps correctly, which I may not be, is that we have spaces there in these designs where if you were front end parked to exit the space, you would have to back into the trail. Um, I'm just wondering if I'm looking at that correctly, and if so, how we mitigate, blind spots and danger there. Just if you could shed some light on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. It's a great question. I think we showed those parking spaces, and that if parking was paramount, we could squeeze some spaces in there. I would not say they're the most desirable spaces, and we'd certainly have to design that the people couldn't back into the trail and cause a conflict there. But potentially we could squeeze some spaces under there. And again, those are not part of the 78 that we were studying in the town center.
So in the example that you've got up here, like those ones that you would back into the trail right now, would it be feasible? And I know this is just like one example and we could tweak it infinite number of ways, but is there like a design concern with like flipping the entrance exit of those? Like if you just flip that little section, that little rake over the other way so that you pull in and back out the opposite direction. I mean, I guess then you're doing it into Maryland Avenue somewhat, right? Yeah, I'm just, is that something that would be, better or possible?
It is. I mean, those could be potentially diagonal spaces, or just completely hatched out. Those spaces tend to be camping spaces. People kind of leave their car there for a long time, so maybe that's not what the town wants anyway. So I mean, an alternative here would be just simply turn those spaces into hatching, right? Or use some kind of boulders or something to block out, and just simply not have any type of parking, just to encourage it anyway, right? It was honestly, it was really put in just more to show that maybe you could squeeze parking in if you absolutely had to. But it's not a critical element at all of the design.
Understood. And then one more question from now. I'm looking at Alt 1, the first option, I think. That is, if I'm looking at them correctly, that is the one option where, well, actually, no, I'm not looking at them correctly. Never mind. I am good for now, but I'm continuing to absorb these, so I can't promise I won't have further questions. Thanks.
Additional council questions? Any public questions or comments? Councilmember Lingua, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Mr. Tissue.
Hi.
Do these plans take into consideration, I mean, in terms of, as you're looking at this and flow and the amount of traffic that could possibly come through these proposed models, is it factoring in the eventuality when the two open lots to the north up in Riverdale Park Station, that are proposed for multifamily units, come into being, and the amount of volume that will bring through this area, the potential amount of volume that could bring through this area, and how it would affect each of these proposed ideas?
I think Brian can help me with that question. It's a good one too. The channelizing of Maryland Avenue through this, I think, lends itself for safety with today's traffic load and with the traffic load that we did anticipate coming from that direction. The
So
The only-
we have, yeah, so we
Go ahead.
have measured what's coming through there now, with Riverdale Station, 90% built out. And the numbers are very, very low, extremely low. So, I mean, the best we can do as traffic engineers is extrapolate these extremely low numbers. And all we get is slightly larger low numbers. So it's it has been looked at as like what could potentially come this way, but given what we've seen so far, we don't anticipate a lot of traffic coming from Maryland Avenue because a lot doesn't come from it now.
And when we do get to the selected options or recommended options, eventually we can provide a traffic simulation that shows how the traffic would perform no matter which scenario we would use, and also include in the additional traffic from land development growth.
Right. I mean, and we can always scale up the models a little bit, just, say add 20% or something, to the traffic volumes to test some kind of, safety factor of safety modeling.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful for all parties concerned as we move forward in trying to make a decision on which model here to incorporate.
Okay.
I found interesting that you are saying that there would be no left-hand turn from westbound Queensbury onto southbound Rhode Island Avenue.
Brian, you want to talk about that one?
Sure. That is just
Suggestion.
it's an option that kind of permeates all these alternatives. Personally, I could take it or leave it. It's just one of those things, or it was identified as an issue in terms of driver confusion, because you basically have a free left going, up from the bottom of your screen to the left side of your screen, which is a very unusual maneuver. You have it actually on both sides of the tracks.
Would also prevent a backup going across the tracks as well, right?
Correct. So we have this as an option that really you can do with or without any of these presented alternatives. It's just something that isn't really an engineering decision because the volumes are too low, but it should be a town decision because it benefits one set of residents at the expense of another set of residents.
Okay. And my last observation, and my question to the both of you, and it might be somewhat getting a little bit of ahead, but and perhaps we can talk about this at that point when the presentation of the scenarios for the other side of the track are concluded. Because it seems that some combinations on the one side in relation to the other are going to work better. And again, this is where that idea of looking at traffic flow models and running simulations could be beneficial in to help determining, which pairing of the models you've developed here would work the best.
Okay. That makes sense. We're talking about them as two projects, but they really are one traffic issue for sure. I think the town has it set up as two separate CIPs, but you're absolutely right. We need to look at them collectively.
And I think that's a point that was made early on. So glad we're at this point to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you pulling this together. I think, since this is on the screen right now, I think my comment would just be, concern around the dead end parking situation, since all parking for this area will be sort of funneled in here. I can just see a nightmare if a delivery truck is done and is trying to get out. The K turn, the leave seems like asking for trouble. Actually, could we go to alternate 2? I think personally this is my favorite. I like the idea of pulling the walk bike traffic closer to the restaurants or businesses. And I'm assuming that Red Plaza area would be a proposed, like, an option to do sort of like the new farmers market could be in sort of that area, or
Right.
something as programmable space, right?
Exactly.
The the flow of traffic essentially being kind of one way in that area makes sense. And you don't have the trail crossing Maryland Avenue. You saw the issue with Maryland Avenue not sort of lining up neatly with Rhode Island Avenue, but my question would be, would there be any rules or restrictions in terms of coming out of Maryland Avenue? You could turn right or left. There'd be no changes to the traffic flow on there.
I believe that's correct. Is that right, Brian?
Yep, you're not proposing anything different. I would say that there's a small flaw in this, not flaw, but a tweak needed in this particular design, and that you typically don't have a raised crosswalk at a driveway exit. So, because as you're leaving, you're not really crossing it both ways at the same time. Your axles are offset, so we wouldn't actually have the raised crosswalk exactly where it is now. It would be at some other location, more mid block. That's all.
Okay. The light blue that's near the deliveries only here, is that just an alleyway that needs to be protected, or is there, like, would that car traffic be happening there?
It's an existing alley, and the light blue is just showing that the driveway apron would have to be reconstructed.
Okay.
As in, we're basically extending the driveway, the length or the width of the trail. So that becomes a driveway extended, and the apron has to get pushed out a little bit further.
Okay. And then I think I agree with the council member in Ward 1 around the parking spaces underneath the 410 overpass, as I would say, either, if unnecessary, because it's sort of like de facto long-term parking now. The bottom row sort of being switched could be an interesting option, depending on but you're saying that those parking spots don't count towards the overall parking numbers associated with this, right?
Right. They're not part of the 78 that we studied.
Yeah, that's helpful. And then just the last thing, I know that Riverdale Park Station now, I think the comment was 90% complete. I think the only change to that is the two big buildings are left. At least one of them, I think the primary entrance and exit would be on Maryland Avenue. And so, though there's less traffic now, there's a world in which that could increase, as that's now probably the easier way to get to those apartment buildings than going around over the bridge, sort of a straight shot. So that could sort of change the numbers. But that being said, I think if you have the ability to do some modeling, you could sort of see what that looks like, 20, 30, 40% more than the current traffic now, which I'm assuming is, so that, I think that should help sort of solve that question.
Understood.
Thank you, Councilmember Inyang. Mr. Gears, I'm going to recognize you, but Councilmember Lingua wants to go ahead, and so we're still doing council at the moment. So, Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank my colleagues for that reminder. I knew there was one other item I wanted to bring up, and it just smacked me in the head. Gentlemen, in these scenarios, I've counted a total number of three. Three is the number I counted of ADA designated spots. And I'm noticing where those three are, and it's over by the rail station, all well and good. But there is nothing that is near over where the shops are. And that for someone who, were they to be going to this area and needed such a spot, would then have to navigate their way across two-lane traffic. First, they'd have to roll over to the raised crosswalk, then along a bike path. And I was wondering if there were locations that you were considering in these parking spaces that you have inserted here, be that out in the open or underneath the 410 overpass, that could be designated as such.
It's an excellent point. I would suggest that we mark ADA spots, which would be the closest to the businesses. So we're not showing that now, but it should be. And we would provide the number of ADA spaces that are required by the regulations governing that. Because that's, you want the shortest, most direct route for the folks that have to navigate that. So we would add those. Good point.
All right. Thank you very much.
Including a ramp, right? Including a ramp.
Thank you
And a
very
ramp.
much, gentlemen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Gears, do you still have a question or comment?
Yes, Mayor Thompson and council and presenters. I guess my first question, which could trickle into other questions, is if you could just get a reminder where we currently are in this process. And I apologize if it was addressed at the beginning. I joined a little late, but kind of like where we see ourselves in this ideation process, and like how many more opportunities for input, public input there is in this process.
Sure. So this slide speaks to that. We did data collection and mapping in number 2 on this slide. Number 3 was public input in December and January. We had the public meeting in January. We've been developing the concepts now and doing our various analysis. So now we're at number 5, public input on the concepts. We will have this meeting tonight. Then we have a meeting with the farmers market folks and the patrons at the farmers market. We'll do that very soon, hopefully this Thursday. And then next Tuesday is a public meeting where we really hope to get a lot of public feedback and allow people to basically kind of vote on which options they like the best. Then we'll take all that information and whatever emails we get in and refine that. And our goal is to develop design concepts for the city council, mayor and city council to approve this summer that would be used then for the future design and construction.
Got it. So we're pretty far along in the, I mean, maybe not super far along, but we're honing in on it is what would you say that's correct?
Trying to keep it moving.
It's certainly. So I guess some of my questions are from that public meeting conversation in December, what were some of the big takeaways? And I'm curious how you implemented them in the options that we currently have on the table.
Pedestrian and bicycle safety was probably the overall number 1 comment that we heard. Ryan, you want to drop down 1 or 2 slides? Keep going. There you go. These are the things that we heard from the public, that the trolley trail needs to be channelized, and right now it kind of just spills into the parking lot, and we want to channelize it and designate it as a distinct transportation link. Channelization of Maryland Avenue, which again kind of spills into the parking lot right now. We want to separate it and define it as much as possible. Minimize the loss of parking, although that really comment didn't come up a lot. obviously we want to make sure the farmers market is and other public events are able to continue to use this space, and then business deliveries and aesthetics.
Got it. No, that's super helpful. I think like my, concern, and I guess, there might be one or two more opportunities to express this, but I guess just expressing it now, is, I guess, number one, the elimination of parking, at a time where, business is expanding in that area, and use of rail. I'd say, I'll have data on this, but from my anecdotal experience, is expanding as well. And then second, just I understand the flow of traffic up there is horrendous, but also just introducing another roadway, just thinking about people who may park on the other side of the MARC station, that now we've just introduced another roadway potentially that they have to cross, or in one of the design concepts, anyone who's parking in the parking lot is also going to have to navigate now a bike path cutting through the parking lot, and in one of the other concepts. So, maybe this also, I have to see the proposal for the other side of the track as well to fully understand how it all comes together. But it does seem like we're fixing some problems, but there's also some new ones that are, popping up here, at least, again, from my layperson's eyes. So I guess that those would be my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gears. Any additional public or council comment? I see that Councilmember Callan has arrived, by the way, just for the record. Any additional council or public comment on these three designs so far? And we're still just on the west side of the project.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to hold any other comments I have on this until we see the east side models.
Very good. Okay, if you can bring 3A up, I have a few comments. And 3 versus 3A, there's some interesting differences there, and just wanted to
This is 3A.
So 3A. So first of all, I wanted to point out that the plaza here is actually much larger than the plaza in 2, and I believe there's no plaza in 1, and so it's smaller.
Hardly any.
Yeah, so there's smaller than in 3, but it is the second largest of all the designs. And so that's one item. Just a question of curiosity, on the left-hand side of the central stripe of parking, then there's a through lane there. And I was curious as to the thoughts behind that.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
So sort of almost in the middle of the whole drawing, there's next to one of the landscaping strips, there's a through lane. And I was curious as to whether that was considered an essential piece of it, or if that was just a holdover from one of the other designs.
I think it's for parking circulation. So let's assume you come in Maryland Avenue from Queensbury. You could turn and go down there to access the two banks of parking towards the railroad tracks, or you could keep going straight and attempt to park in that area. So it's just for parking circulation.
Okay, but it's conceivable that could get turned into parking spaces as well.
It's possible. The downside of doing that would be then that lower bank of traffic then would become like a dead end parking.
Yeah, you'd have to do a K-turn there, so you'd only get 2 spaces back.
Right.
Sure, and I understand that. So what I wanted to point out about that is that the edge of the plaza there is at least somewhat fluid. So there's 6 parking spaces that are underneath the plaza right now, and that edge can move without impacting the design overall. And so if we took away the 6 spaces that were underneath the bridge and wanted to try to maintain a similar number of spaces, then those could conceivably be added. 6, and with some concerns about turnaround, then even possibly 8. So
exactly.
Just wanted to point
that out. It's basically a trade-off of plaza area versus parking that you want to maintain, and where's that sweet spot?
Exactly.
Right, and I think when we pick our design, it's almost like a work backwards, right? Give me 60 of the 70 spaces, or give me 40, and what does the design look like?
Sure,
So.
sure. But that seems like an easy one. There are others that I was having a hard time imagining where you might be able to scrape some spare ones out. So that's one thing. Something that has been discussed for a long time is that having that current intersection of Maryland with Queensbury is very close to the tracks, and that's a safety issue. And so this design, and I believe one of the others, and I'm sorry I don't have them, I think 3.
3 and 3A.
Both move that intersection away, and thus are increasing the safety there for train traffic interference. That I've heard from many people over many years that intersection is just a nightmare, and it also regularizes the intersection of Maryland, Queensbury, and I guess that's Rhode Island on the far left-hand side. And so that could conceivably become a more standard intersection. So you have 4 roads intersecting at a simple spot. And I find both of those compelling here. And last but not least, is that there's been concern about the fact that people tend to just put pedal to the metal on Maryland Avenue. And this is, again, a way to slow them down just as they're arriving in the town center, where there are going to be more pedestrian activities and so on. Then they have to slow down to go around that curve on the just to the south of the East-West Highway bridge.
And it would restrict certain longer, heavier vehicles too.
Right. Although it seems like that might be a little bit adjustable if you had an area there that trucks could hop over or something like that, right at the edge of the bridge. That you would want to make it difficult, because you do want them to slow down. You want all traffic to slow down and have a pretty hard right there or hard turn there. But it does seem like there's a little bit of flexibility there for making it work better.
Exactly.
And I think that those are my major questions. This is actually the one of the designs that I find the most compelling. And of course, there's some adjustments and some concerns, but that I just wanted to provide get those questions answered and provide a little bit of feedback. And I guess the one last question that I have, and this is covering all 3 designs, is that it looks like there's going to be some taking of property here. I don't know that we ever determined exactly where the property boundary lines are, but at least as they're drawn on this map, then where the 24 next to the 2 blue back and forth arrows is on the sort of left-hand side, then you can see the arc of the map's boundary line, which is, we don't know if that's correct or not, but that's certainly plausibly private property right now, and it's got half the street on it. And so we might want to try to nail down where those property lines are before we get too far along on these designs.
And that's an excellent point. Some of the property lines in this area are, I'll just say fuzzy, the technical term. What I was thinking is in the design phase, we would have to do a boundary survey, which is going to cost some money to nail down exactly where all the property lines are, and particularly where CSX properties are. It's an excellent point, and we need to keep that in our thoughts here as we put this together.
Okay, very good. And also to Mr. White's comment about traffic from Riverdale Park Station, I think the number of dwelling units up there is going to roughly double when the 2 new developments go in. And so that's just something to be concerned about. And although it's a bit dusty, there is a traffic study from about 10 or 12 years ago that is available that specs out what expected traffic loads are going to be coming down Maryland Avenue when the development at Riverdale Park Station is fully built out. So those are are available to at least look at, and you can perhaps roll your eyes at them and think that they're completely incorrect, but that they are available, and it's extraordinarily cheap to at least look at those numbers.
We have those, and I will say the one thing that I saw was even with additional traffic, they still just proposed a stop sign down at Queensbury Road. There was no traffic light, which would be kind of the next phase of traffic control. And so, yeah, I appreciate the comment. We do have that.
Okay, but those numbers can be compared to your projected numbers from the recent traffic counts, and just sort of there's a difference, then scratch your heads and think about it a little bit. Just worth some thought. Okay, and unless there are additional comments from anyone else, then I think we should go east.
All right, Ryan, can you move me to project 2? There we go. Thank you. So these are the goals that we heard from the public for what I'm calling the Queensbury Avenue, Lafayette Avenue, Natoli Place traffic improvements that we want to make there. So again, improving pedestrian cycling safety was paramount. We wanted to calm traffic and heard a lot about trying to discourage cut-through traffic for people that are just basically doing just that. They're just cutting through the community and adding to the traffic, but not really doing business or living there. We wanted to minimize the traffic conflict points on Queensbury Avenue, which I think is some of the points that you've been getting to in your comments. And what we heard a lot was that a suggestion of moving northbound Lafayette away from CSX further east to help with that situation. And you'll see that here soon in these designs. We wanted to actually create some traffic control at Natoli and Lafayette Avenue intersection, which can be confusing right now. Suggesting of closing the south access point into the CSX parking lot, maintaining the one at the north, but just to limit those movements. You'll see that here soon too. Minimize work on CSX-owned property. I'm still very concerned of getting their cooperation in working with us on these projects, and the less we impact them, the better we'll have an opportunity to work with them, I think. So provide a green buffer between the relocated Lafayette Avenue and those dwelling units that are currently on Natoli. You'll see that also. And then just improve aesthetics and provide green space, and then minimize the impact on the Veterans Monument, and in fact, make it easier to get to it for pedestrians. All right, Ryan, let's go to the first concept, which is alternate 4, but it's the first concept for this particular phase of the project or portion of the project. So in this one, southbound Lafayette coming right to left across the page is basically where it's at now. We've added a stop sign where it would intersect with Natoli. The northbound Lafayette moves down basically across from the town market, which is going to be the case in all these concepts. Northbound would move down there where Natoli is now. You'd have a stop condition where it meets, I guess we call that Lafayette, or I'm not sure what you call it, but there would be a stop condition there as well. There'd be additional sidewalks. That's the blue that you see. We would make sure that we have a complete sidewalk system in the area, and also adding some green space, which is the light green area as well. Then the next concept is number 5. You know, we heard a lot from the community about having more of a grid or a blockish type of arrangement of streets in this area instead of these 2 curving roads kind of nesting together. So that's what this one attempts to explore. The southbound movement on Lafayette is again basically where it's at now. There would be a stop sign added where his cursor is at, and then northbound again moves to the east away from the CSX line, and then they would have 2 stop signs if somebody wanted to continue on Lafayette Avenue, which would be traffic calming, and it would also discourage cut-through traffic to some measure. a little bit of an unusual traffic pattern there, but I think it would be effective to accomplish what our goals are. Again, there'd be sidewalk system added. You can see new sidewalks and, on there. And then this adds even more green space. That Munch Park could be improved. The corner where the Veterans Monument could be expanded, and just additional green area. And then the last concept, this moves all Lafayette traffic down to where the Tolley enters, or is at Queensbury now. So you'd have two-way traffic there. And obviously it adds a traffic circle and a raised crosswalk just north of the traffic circle, which together would provide, I feel, maximum traffic calming. The raised crosswalk would allow pedestrians to more easily get over to the Veterans Monument. The circle would be an opportunity for some sort of a placemaking display, whatever the town would want to put in the circle. Where Lafayette is now would become green space, as you can see there. So Munch Park is really increased in size, and it's much easier to get to from the town center area. And the other thing that could be added here is a stop condition on eastbound Queensbury down at the market. We looked at that pretty closely because we didn't want traffic to stop there and then back up into the railroad track area, but for the volumes and for the design the way it is, we feel that that could be added. What does that do for you? It provides a crosswalk there that's under a stop condition that pedestrians can more safely get across from Munch Park over to the market. Those are the three concepts. So at this point, I think I'd like to hear what your reactions are and what questions you have on those three concepts.
I just want to add one thing, Rodney,
Please.
is that all of these have a new side path from Natoli Place heading toward town center. So that dark gray strip of land is basically a new side path.
Biker path.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Looks like there's a bunch of hands up, so let's go with Councilmember Smith to start. Go ahead. You're muted, Councilmember Smith.
If we could go back to Alt 5, please. I think, yeah. I think as I was like leaning in very close to the screen and trying to see what was going on here, you have answered this question already, but this little divider in the middle of the intersection, the little, I don't know what you call that, backwards Z, what is happening there?
Well, it would almost act as a median crossover on a dual highway, but basically you would stop in either direction there. So
you can drive through there. It's
yeah.
It's a short block. It's an extremely short block, basically.
Yeah, very short block.
Okay.
There would be stop signs there, is that correct?
Yeah, those are actually stop bars, and the line that's in the middle is a double yellow line.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, it's the same color.
So in a block that short with stop bars as opposed to maybe stop signs, unless stop signs, I'm just wondering, like, in your experience having designed, I'm sure plenty of these before, what roughly is the incidence of people just ignoring the stop instruction there? Because my low faith in humanity tells me that more often than not, people are just going to blow through that.
Yeah, my work experience has been stop signs aren't warranted. People just ignore them, and then it just changes the safety issue from one thing to another. So using stop signs as a traffic control device, in my professional opinion, is not a good idea. But the town has used them a lot of places, and this would be no different than a lot of places in town.
Does the stop bar change that calculus at all?
Not really. It's just another way of making the stop condition more prominent.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, as I look at these, I think one I would definitely want to make sure that we give the businesses in this area an opportunity to react to these. But the one that seems to meet the most of our sort of articulated needs and values here is the SIC with the traffic circle. Um, and just to render an opinion on that on the previous set too, I like Alt 2 there for the same reasons. But yeah, 6 looks like the most workable for me. I like that one removes the extra leg of the intersection there, creates more green space there, programmable space. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Lingua looks like he was next with his hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question is not so much related to the other side of the track, but for this project, gentlemen, was there any consideration to reversing the flow on Rittenhouse Street?
Can't say that there was.
No.
Tell me more.
Well, I mean, one of the things that you said you were trying to do is reduce cut through traffic, and that is a notorious cut through for folks who come rolling down Queensbury, zip on over, come on through up to Rittenhouse so they can just bypass all that stuff there at along East West Highway. I mean, the more as I sat here and I looked at each of these models, I thought, well, what if Rittenhouse was one way going back into this town center area? What does it do? And I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, well, folks here would still have two ways. If they wanted to go north, they could. If they wanted to go south, and then either east or west, they could. Because as of right now, all they can do is really come out from where they are, go east, to then go south, and then to go west. Really have no opportunity to go north without having to cross over East-West Highway. I kind of see it as a way also, when you look at each of these designs, say the hold on a second here, let me pull up the number. Say, for example, Alt 5, which is what we're on right now. If you were to look at that and how that would work for the folks on Natoli Place, then they're still able to go north and south and then get back out east and west, not a problem. Also, for the folks on Rittenhouse to be able to get to their houses, they don't have to come up into this busy area just to get to their houses. They're able to use that's 48th
48th Street
to
Avenue,
come into,
48th Avenue.
which is away from all of this. Granted, yes, they would have to egress into this area, but this is probably more destinations to where they're going to.
Would you still have the access onto 410 from Rittenhouse heading east?
Well, no, you wouldn't. Well, you would not have that direct access. Well, you would not have the access to be able to go eastbound onto 410, which is the only access you have right now.
So Councilmember, just from 48th, then I think you have to keep the access onto East-West Highway. So you wouldn't be able to go from here and get onto East-West Highway taking Rittenhouse, but you could take Queensbury further east, turn left on 48th, turn right to get on, because otherwise that section of the street in front of Councilmember Foe's house would be inaccessible.
No, that's true. But I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing this out there.
Mm-hmm.
If I may, we did a traffic count at this intersection, and we found that it actually isn't being used as a shortcut. Lafayette is. So people come across the tracks heading east and go up Lafayette toward River Tech Court. That's the primary movement. I mean, by like 90% of the vehicles, if not 95%.
Okay.
I mean, it may have been at one point.
I know.
But
I always use
it
it.
isn't
So.
now. Now I see what the issue is. No, it's definitely, eastbound Queensbury to northbound Lafayette to River Deck. That's the primary movement, and vice versa, actually, through this intersection.
Okay.
If I can make one additional minor comment, if we can go to alternate 6 with the roundabout. Alternate 6 would lose the additional green space if the direction of traffic flow in Rittenhouse was reversed in order to make the roundabout work. So just another detail. Can't have that sharp turn.
It would be a minor loss.
Well, it's there. Just
Okay.
adding that in.
But you'd be able to throw back on green space across from Mabel Munch.
I don't see how that would happen, but we can.
Okay.
There are other people waiting to speak.
All right. That's all. That's all for now.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
Yes, I think I agree that I think the roundabout, which is sort of currently being shown now, I think adds green space. I think is that will actually be usable and not just green
Right.
space. That'll just be green space. I think
Right.
it's enough that with the sidewalks, I think that's what did it for me is like, and we could even maybe think about how we plan the sidewalk path, but I think it's an opportunity to bring people to that space that currently are not there. The hiker, the bike trail moving up, not having to be broken up by another intersection, I think is like a good thing and kind of connects to whatever solution we have on the opposite side of the tracks. And the biggest danger, I think there's a traffic circle up on River Tech Court and Lafayette that works really well in terms of, people don't necessarily speed through too much, but in terms of like the flow of traffic, so it's almost replicating it. And I think actually this with the little split dividers, I wonder if that even acts as like making it people sort of forcing them to slow down as much, so that I think this sort of solves a lot. My only thought process is just what are the implications from the Tully Place now if all traffic is sort of coming through there? Is this also would be a right or left turn as you sort of go south on the Tully Place to Queensbury? Like you can turn left or right there, or would any of that traffic have to be changed at all?
I'm not quite
I'm
sure.
not. Yeah, can you? I guess who's specifically
So basically,
who's
as we're looking at the map right now, moving from right to left, so moving from Lafayette through the roundabout down the Tully Place towards Queensbury.
Okay.
You can make a right or a left at the
Correct.
end of the Tully Place. Okay.
Yes.
And so in terms of did you get a sense of from traffic study how many people are going just straight on Queensbury versus sort of turning? I guess my question is just mainly just funneling everything to one street. I like that because I think it's more simplistic. I don't believe in people stopping. I think to Councilmember in the first ward's point about stop signs and making that as short. If anything, it'll be traffic and people will back up. So the idea of keeping the flow of traffic going, but sort of funneling it to sort of acceptable known patterns make sense. My question is just, are we squeezing all the traffic now to sort of one point right here? Are there any concerns in terms of like cars piling up trying to turn right onto Queensbury or turn left onto Queensbury, coming sort of south on Lafayette into Natoli Place. Is there any concern in terms of like traffic, what that would be, or you feel pretty comfortable about, traffic dumping onto Queensbury being able to turn left or right?
We do feel comfortable. That is the primary movement. So south of Lafayette to right on Queensbury is the dominant movement by far. And right turns they have less conflicts, right? They have less conflicts. So we're confident, and we have modeled it that the traffic it doesn't stack up.
So most people are not making a left onto Queensbury.
No. Almost everyone's making a right.
Yeah.
Thank you
At
so
least
much.
in the peak hour.
Yeah, no, that helps. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Morning and evening, actually, in both conditions.
Councilmember Foe.
Oh,
Councilmember Foe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am looking at this and I feel like the roundabout is our best option. My biggest concern is exiting the Napoli Place onto Queensbury and the intersection of Town Center Market parking lot. I don't know the role that the town plays in this. I imagine it's very limited because it's private property. But I feel like there are issues in that parking lot frequently that find their way onto Queensbury. And I think a dialogue about maybe creating an entrance and an exit in that parking lot, if that space, I just feel like we are going to have issues created by Town Center Market's exit from the parking lot. And I just don't know what next steps are in that dialogue, or if the data would say that we don't have a problem there, then I would feel more comfortable potentially.
Well, one thing I liked about this scenario is it basically creates a four-legged intersection with one leg being the market's driveway. So we need to study that carefully. But I think this is, hopefully I'm not mistaken, I believe this is what the gentleman from the market was kind of looking for when we did the presentation in January.
I think he'd like a flashing neon sign that says cold beer, right?
We can do that too, I guess.
Would there be concern about?
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. No one's raising their hands. Mr. Mayor, real quick.
Go ahead, Councilmember Enyang. Councilmember Calon, I'll let you speak immediately afterwards.
Just would there be any restrictions in terms of leaving the parking lot and going straight on Natoli Place? Or is that because to the south of Queensbury, which is off screen, there's no stop signs, right?
So this actually works in any configuration. So it can be a four-way stop or it can be a two-way stop. It works both ways. It works both ways actually, no matter which way you do the two-way stop. Because of the limited conflicting movements at the time right now, at the way the counts are right now, is that you have the option of basically doing kind of whatever you want in terms of traffic control here.
That's good news. Councilmember Calon, your question, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, sorry I came in late. I'm not feeling well. But I've been studying, listening to speakers and looking at the road map. But what I'm concerned about, what is the main reason for changing this scenario? Can this not cause a traffic congestion? Because when he remove the original traffic route to another design. And I'm confused. I think it's going to cause a congestion because when you are coming to the circle, you have to wait until the other side clear before you go. And this other side going to hold a lot of traffic, like the rush hours. So I don't know why they bring in this design. Thank you.
Yep, the primary movement through the circle will be northbound through and southbound through. Almost entirely, that's almost entirely what you're going to have happen at this. So there actually is very little conflicts at all, i.e., very little waiting time, to enter the circle. And the circle, as Rodney pointed out, has very skinny lanes and has those deflector islands. So you're going to have traffic yielding into the circle at a slow speed, which I think is one of the goals of the project. But to answer your question, there won't be any congestion in the circle because actually inside the circle there's no conflicting movements. There's very few conflicting movements.
Go ahead, Councilmember Callan.
Okay. If you say there's not going to be any congestion, but I know many traffic circles where there is a lot of delays, and that areas are not congested like the way where we are right now. So that's why I'm confused. I'm saying this, but you are not telling me why you are changing this scenario in this original route so that we can get some alafia by the pedestrians, the vehicles, the bikers. Because sometimes some people, they don't wait for another man to go around the cycle. There's going to be a lot of accidents in this area. So let's sit down and consider this before we go ahead to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Just to sort of answer the overall question, since you missed the first part of the presentation, this is all about improving pedestrian safety while having several other goals, pedestrian and vehicle safety. And so the intersection where current Lafayette meets with Queensbury is a very dangerous intersection, and there are a lot of wrecks there. And so moving the main intersection further away from the railroad tracks and decoupling it from the Lafayette South intersection with Queensbury is expected to reduce the number of accidents and improve safety for both pedestrians and drivers and bicyclists through here. And so that's the goal of all three of the designs that we have on this side of the tracks, and in fact the four designs we have on the other side, and all of them should meet that goal of improving safety.
Well, if he said so, we'll see. Because the way I see, I know some people, some drivers, they don't have patience at all. Not
Sure.
even when we are on this original location, they don't have patience. They're driving the way they like. They don't recognize stop sign, neither red lights, neither speed camera. They don't care. So, but anyway, we will see. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Councilmember Lingua, did I see your hand go up or microphone open?
You did, and then I put it back down, but because honestly, I left my mind what I wanted to bring up, and it was sitting right in front of me. Gentlemen, your plans are contingent on the Federal Railway Administration being a amicable and willing partner to changes in its parking lot. That's question number one.
So
two is, oh, hold on one second, please.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at each of your designs. As people come off the train or come across and they come through the parking lot because they want to use the crossing there to get on to get over to the side to come down to the shops here, where are they accessing this sidewalk? Because I'm seeing a lot of green space at possible locations where they could, but there's no really path to get onto the sidewalk, and otherwise they have to cut between cars to get to the sidewalk. which again could be an ADA issue as well.
Right. No, we'll take a
All
look
yours.
at that. Well, your first question, it's a great question about the parking lot and what we can do there. I think, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think mostly what we wanted to do was just restripe, maybe cut in some green islands just to make it look a little bit neater and tidier. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't think, I'm almost positive there's no net change in parking spaces.
Okay. But you're looking to eliminate an ingress and egress.
Well, the one that's closest to Queensbury,
Right.
but I think that's the right thing to do. If we can't get it done, I guess that would change the dynamics, but I don't see why it would have to stay open.
Yeah, it's not like this is a large parking lot.
Right.
True. But so you're confident that they would see it that way as well.
One never knows.
Yeah, I don't know how he can answer that. Couldn't possibly answer that
So
question.
Councilmember Lingua, that is our street, and so they can't force us to maintain a street there. We're allowed to close it and not have paved street there anymore.
They still have access. We can't take away their access completely, but they still
Right.
have access.
A large driveway. I mean, it's not like it's a
Oh,
small
sure, but
driveway.
I'm just
Okay.
saying that the southern entrance and exit, then we can't do anything on their property, but we can certainly have the street that it empties into disappear. That's within our powers as a municipality.
Okay. So and they have no way of overriding that.
Who knows?
Well, we are going to
Okay.
submit, when we get the selected option, we are going to submit it and keep your fingers crossed.
Okay. Thank you.
The property lines on this side of the track are also a bit fuzzy, so we will have to see what happens.
And thank you for reminding me the other question. Didn't we do, and this pertains to the other side because you're asking about seeing whose property was where. Wasn't there a rather very extensive, labored, long strung out determination of where property lines were when they did the hiker biker trail? Thanks to those wonderful folks at MNC PPC.
There was such a survey done north of East West Highway, but to my knowledge, not south of East West Highway.
There was nothing done through this section here. I thought there was because the hiker biker trail ran down through us and into Hyattsville. I thought they had to do it the entire length.
I think that they were mainly looking at adjacencies next to houses, and but they had to get some quitclaim deeds there. But I think in the business area they did not look at it. But it's an interesting question. I think it's worth.
Yeah, I would be I'd be verifying that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any public comments at this time about any of these three designs? Okay, very good. I will pipe in at the end and say that I'm the roundabout design looks very interesting to me. I think everyone knows that I've never, well, I won't say never, almost never met a roundabout that I didn't like, and so this is very appealing to me. And we could put another pollinator garden in the middle of that one if we wanted to. So that would be a good thing to do. Okay, continue. Is that your presentation?
Just
Mr.
one
Tisch?
more slide, Ryan, if you could roll to the last slide. So again, just this is what's happening. We're meeting with the farmers market patrons Thursday, public meeting next Tuesday. Very important to get people there to discuss this. And then we'll keep working on refining the designs from there. That's our presentation, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Tissue. Appreciate it. Any final questions or comments from the public or the council? Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And this kind of goes to the whole body. Are we comfortable with the June 3rd date? Council members? You know, if this were asking at the beginning of the meeting, I would take silence as being no.
But Mr. Mayor, if I could respond to the query from the member.
Please go ahead.
I don't think we could do this fast enough. That sounds great to me. I say that being a person that will be out of the country and unable to attend that meeting, but generally, as fast as we can keep this moving, I'm in favor of that.
Okay. Councilmember Foe, do you have an opinion?
I agree.
Okay. Councilmember Yang, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree that we needed this years ago. So anything that can be done to expedite this, I'm in favor of. And I appreciate the hard work that's gone into this. So thank you all.
Councilmember Calon, any concerns about the June 3 date?
Well, Samuel, you are the head of everything. Whatever you suggest, we are behind you.
Well, okay. I'm not going to be mayor anymore on June 3rd, so
Well,
it's
for now, you are the mayor.
yes. Councilmember Lingo, I'll let you have one more, but Mr. Gears wishes to speak, and I would like to recognize him at some point.
Okay, I will make this quick, being that, and I am sure you remember because I believe you were there, that we began talk about what to do on this on one of those lovely community walks at the very end. We were all standing around, and the question was posed about what are we looking to do to start looking at a redesign on this. And that was, gosh, who was president then? I believe that was Obama first term when that got proposed, if not earlier. And here we are, we're going through this, and we've had one meeting before. We were having this presentation. We're going to have one public meeting on the 20th, and hopefully it's well attended. And then within a 2-week period, we're going to be deciding on a very substantial change. And we're losing an opportunity to be able to have this out again in front of the public on Trolley Trail Day, when we have a lot of folks coming around, when it's a big event where a lot of folks come out, to try and get input at that event as well, at least giving people another chance to weigh in on these designs. And
Okay,
that,
this is a presentation,
go right
and
ahead.
why don't we discuss that particular topic under either new or unfinished
Unfinished would be
business
fine.
later in the meeting? Okay, very good. Mr. Gears, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to quickly chime in on the matter discussed, I do think it could be worth having another public comment period. I know folks in my neighborhood, people I talk to, I'm not sure if this has permeated quite yet. I know there was a community meeting before, and the takeaway was this is pretty far off when that was in December, and time has flown. So that would be my 2 cents there as a member of the public. I'm curious. I know there was a joke about the TCM owner wanting the cold beer sign as a part of the project, but I'm curious, what feedback you have received from members from the business community in this area. We moved to this area where new residents as of last year to Riverdale Park in part because of the emerging business community here, and I'm curious what you have heard and how you've tried to incorporate that into these plans.
I would just say that we heard from several of the businesses through either email or through the public meeting that we had in January, and hopefully we will repeat that when we present these concepts next week and the emails that would come in after that. Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question about the June 3rd? Is your anticipation that you're going to vote on a concept on June 3rd? I guess I'm a little bit lost in your conversation there.
The meeting is June 2nd, and
June 2nd.
If you scroll back up to your schedule, then I thought that you had a June 3rd deadline for something.
That was just the end of the public comment on the concepts. Then we would have to take all that and prepare a recommendation to you. We're not going to be ready by June 3rd.
Okay, so the idea is that the public comment would extend through the end of the June 2nd meeting, more or less.
Correct.
And then you would start working on winnowing down to size.
Finalizing a plan, yeah. So
Okay.
July probably is when the council will see this, hopefully.
Okay. So does that, Councilmember Lingua, does that address some of your concerns, or do you still want to extend it a month?
That's the concern I have,
Okay.
that it's cutting off the public comment time too soon.
Okay. Well, as I said, let's bring it up and come to a decision as a actual vote and motion later in the meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Gears, go ahead.
Yeah, just apologies to Mr. Tissue, but I I don't know if my question was answered in terms of what was heard from the business community and how that was incorporated, unless the feeling is that there's nothing you feel like you can kind of generally share about what you heard from the business community.
Rod, if I could try to answer that.
Okay.
We heard a lot from the business community. That meeting spanned, I think, 2 hours or more. We heard some business folks saying, don't channelize. We heard others saying channelize in terms of the trolley trail, move Maryland Avenue, don't move Maryland Avenue. And so there was a lot of input there. The overarching message, though, was improve pedestrian and biker and driver safety. And so I recall several of the speakers were very passionate about their positions. And so we're looking high level and trying to ensure that whatever the design that will be approved by the mayor and council meets the goal of improving pedestrian, bicyclist, and driver safety without being detrimental or minimizing any impacts on businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Lestinian.
Just call me John.
You got it.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, being that this is my ward, if I could respond to Mr. Gears as well, that, this is a topic that I talk about with the businesses in this area, frequently. I think like many, if not all of us, I'm at Town Center Market, conservatively a couple times a week. I run into, Teddy and the guys there. It's always something that I raise from, when I gotten elected here. Since we've been in this meeting, I've texted this deck to a few different business owners in the area to provide feedback on, and we'll continue to ensure that they are, informed and provided opportunities to weigh in. I think you make an excellent point that the burgeoning small business community in this area is one of the things that attracts people to our community. And that is always top of my mind, is ensuring that we're providing an environment that they can flourish in. So we certainly wouldn't want to move in directions that's going to be detrimental to their foot traffic as we do this. But one thing that we know is detrimental is the extent of safety in this area, and people aren't going to come and shop and walk around in places they don't feel safe. And I think I haven't heard anyone say that the status quo of this area of our community, meets a strong safety standard. So, point is taken. We're constantly in dialogue with these folks, and we'll continue to be, and we'll make sure that we land on a project that's going to be good for the community and enables our small business to thrive and everyone to be safe as they patron this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Foe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just reiterate what the council member said. At the January meeting, I forget when it was. I remember the central thesis of the businesses in this area being, don't limit traffic access to our businesses. That's what I heard from 250. That's what I heard from Town Center. So I believe that nothing in these plans that we've looked at today will limit access to any of those spaces that make our town so unique and special. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, looking at the clock and the agenda and the fact we're on presentation number 1, I'm going to suggest that we move along to presentation number 2. Update on stop sign automated enforcement program. Thank you, Mr. Tissue.
Welcome. Thank you for the good feedback.
And Mr. White, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chief Turner, can you lead us through this presentation, please?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Recently, the town partnered with the company Abio to do a stop sign pilot program for automated enforcement for our stop signs. The program lasted approximately 8 days, and we recorded data from 8 intersections. And that data was collected for 24 hours a day. If you could move to the next slide, please. So these are the 8 intersections that the pilot program reported the data from. And these were selected to spread it out generally throughout the town. Intersections where we had known accidents or complaints from residents and are close to the school zones. So the stop signs are measured. Please don't go to the next slide yet. The stop signs are measured 3 ways: low, medium, and high danger. With low being almost coming to a stop, to a quiver, or stopping beyond the white stop line. Medium danger incidents are rated as slowing down but not coming to a complete stop. The vehicle wheels are still moving. And high danger is barely touching the brakes and proceeding through the stop sign without due caution. And we can go to the next slide, please. So this is the average daily violations per day at the 8 intersections. This does include all types of violations. So we asked the company to provide us anyone that did not stop completely at the stop sign. So overall, the low danger violations were 62% of this number. So generally speaking, if we were operating the cameras and issuing citations, we would more than likely be issuing citations for medium and high danger violations. And if you could move to the next slide, please. So as you can see here at Lafayette Avenue and 47th, we recorded 77% of the vehicles did not come to a complete stop. But the real number here to remember is that 11% were high danger, resulting in 307 violations, and 33% of the vehicles were medium. 56% were low danger. So a little over half of these would not have been citations, but it's still an alarming number. We move to the next slide, please. At Longfellow and 48th, again, the low danger numbers were 55%, the medium were 33%, and the high danger were 12%. We go to the next slide. And again, here at Taylor, 59% of these violations were low danger, 35% were medium, and 6% were high danger. You can move to the next slide, please. At Woodbury at 46, 64% of the violations were low danger, 26% were medium, and 10% were high. And you can move to the next. At Sheridan Street, 59% of the violations were low danger, 35% were medium, and 6% were high danger. And again, here at Riverdale Road and 54th Avenue, 59% of these violations were low, 33% were medium, and 6% were high. You can go ahead. And at Taylor at Queensbury, 75% of the violations were low, 19% were medium, and 6% were high danger. And last, at Riverdale at Taylor, 69% were low danger, 26% were medium, and 5% were high danger. But I think what we need to keep in mind here is that on an average per day, we had 306 violations that were high danger, which means the vehicles did not attempt to stop. So I have spoken to my counterpart and Morningside PD where they have established these cameras, and in 8 weeks they've seen a 50% decrease in high danger violations. There are 5 other jurisdictions in the county that have already enacted legislation and are actually enforcing stop sign cameras. There's another 5 that are in a process with the county for approval, and another 3 that I know of that are completing pilot programs, and one of those is our neighbor in Hyattsville. If you go to the next slide, please. And obviously, this is our motto: there are no accidents. Every crash is preventable. Actually, in the police department, we don't call them accidents; we call them collisions. And if you could, I believe it's at the last slide. And I will take any questions that you may have.
Okay, before we go to questions, I just want to point out that these cameras, trial cameras, were only looking at one direction at those intersections. So there could have been up to 4 stop signs at them, and only one direction was covered by the cameras.
Correct. And if we do enact legislation and elect to deploy it, it will only be one direction. The violations recorded from the rear of the vehicle. Unless we deployed 4 different cameras at a 4-way intersection.
Right, and we'll have to decide what to do there.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to take long on this because I know we've got a packed agenda, and I think the council is well informed in how I feel about these things. Thank you for the presentation, Chief Turner. Can I ask, did we put together this deck, or did this come from the vendor?
The data came from the vendor, but they supplied videos as well.
But the actual slides here that we're looking at.
No, I provided the slides.
Understood.
It came from them. I added to this. I changed them or edited them.
Sure, I appreciate that. I would like to be able to look at the breakout numbers here. It's a little hard to discern when we get the full number, not the number that you're telling us would actually be citations. So there's a lot of things included in there that seems erroneous. Like I said, Mr. Mayor, folks know well how I feel about this. I'm shocked that a company that sells this service tells us that we need their service because 90% of our cars are violating, which they also say is not really 90%. It's closer to half that, if that. So yeah, I'm skeptical of the data here. If we were to move forward on something like this, I would also like to see some other data from other vendors or other studies. I don't think it's the data holds up to just have one person conduct this study and go off of that. So I'd like to see more information on this and what happens at these intersections. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I have a comment, please?
Sure.
So the data that was provided is how we asked for it. If we were deploying the cameras now, we would ask them not to send violations of low danger. We would only receive the medium and high. It was because we requested it that way.
Understood. I would like to see that broken out by low, medium, high in a little bit more detail here. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that.
Councilmember Renyan, go ahead.
Thank you. I think there's at least for me, it's important not to you can talk about the numbers in a way where it's like, you hope that they're more astronomical, but we're still talking about 8 days worth of data on intersections, on one direction's worth of intersections. And so there's a possibility that you could probably double these numbers if you're talking just capturing the 2 or 3 other sides of a particular intersection. And so it's running stop signs is clearly an issue. And I think I agree, sort of seeing the almost the ticketed citation amounts, the mediums and highs would be sort of helpful. And I think what might also be helpful is to see, to put it maybe in context when we talk about speed numbers for a week-long period, how many speed violations would typically happen. We see these numbers in the hundreds or so. Is that multiple 4 or 5 times more? My question is what I'm trying to answer is running stop signs in some way you could say 2 or 3 times bigger an issue than speeding? Are they related? I think that would be sort of like a helpful understanding in terms of like putting this in context. I personally feel like, at least, I'll keep saying it, that I know the locations were sort of, there were reasons behind where they were there. I know for a fact that if we had to pick one location, Riverdale Park Station, the current location would not have been sort of like top 3. I think when we had I'll never forget, we had the trolley trail day, the block party with multiple police cars and a full event happening, and the Rhode Island Avenue crossing Van Buren intersection, people were still running stop signs with cops, and like this is like on their best behavior. That's what it was looking like. And so pick any intersection and you would see constantly people. I think you would have mostly mediums and probably high violations there. So I think the data is important. I think being able to see it broken down in terms like this would be what we would actually find would be important. And then 2, if there's some way, I'm just spitballing, but thinking about how we contextualize this in terms of like other violations like speeding might help sort of put this in context. So we're not just seeing, though I think the numbers are striking, but some of my colleagues may not necessarily agree with that. And so putting it in terms of like other known variables, if ever possible, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. I just didn't have the data in time. I can have it sent to the council. I just think the important thing to know is on average, we had daily 306 high danger violations and 1,427 medium. They would have resulted in citations daily.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Council, allow me ballpark 4,800 violations at 8 locations, only monitoring one direction. That comes out to a stop sign being ran less than every 20 seconds a day. And that's just those in those spots. So in less than 20 seconds, stop sign is going to be ran in this town. And it's probably even higher. I think we do need to find a way to address this. I think we do need to find a way to bring these numbers down. I think we should be looking at, if we're only going to be looking at a unidirectional enforcement, that to see if that can be rotated at a given intersection, or if we're allowed multi-directional enforcement at a given intersection. We just need to find a way, working with all parties involved in this, to really bring those numbers down as much as we can.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any additional council questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Callan, go ahead.
Yeah, what I want to know, because at the stop sign, some people, they just step on the brake and move. Some people, they stop completely. They will take like a minute standing there, unless you hold on them to move. So what is the minimum second somebody going to stop there? Is if it is a minute or is a second? That's how I want to know.
Chief Turner?
Yes. So a vehicle must come to a complete stop before or at the stop line. And when I mean a complete stop, the wheels must come to a rest. There's no particular time how long the vehicle has to sit still. They need to obviously evaluate the intersection that is clear and then proceed.
So it could be 1 second or half a second.
Yes.
Because why I'm asking these questions, even the speed camera, sometimes they blunder on people. You can see somebody standing like this, the camera is flashing, pow, 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 on the people. And when you go and argue this case, you can never win. So if we install the camera at the stop sign, if the camera malfunction against the drivers, how these people are going to defend themselves? Yeah, that's what I want to know.
So if you receive a citation, it will come along with video evidence that you could review. And if you wanted to contest the citation, it's your right to contest it in court. You can request a court date.
Well, by then, your time has been wasted.
That-
Yeah, maybe
It may be,
you are
but-
going to work, or you have a doctor's appointment. Then you have to go to court to contest about the camera. So you see, the vendors, you are the chief. You're working with them. Please, you are on our side. Tell the vendors what is the implication about these cameras. Thank you.
Councilmember Nyang?
Yes. I appreciate the explanation in terms of like what does a full stop mean? So the tire stopping for however long. That makes sense because we would have to educate the public in terms of what does stop, what does that mean? My only question is, do we know, are there any vendors who do similar studies, whether this is like a traffic study that is sort of, quote unquote, like an independent study? I think some of the concerns that I think is coming from some of my colleagues is well, at least one. My guess is that the idea that the vendor who's providing the data has an interest in sort of making the data seem like we have a pandemic or an epidemic of running stop signs, whether we do or we not, because obviously the higher the number, the more likely we're going to say, yes, we need this, please help us. And so I'm curious in terms of, are there, have we in the past, or are there vendors who do sort of similar studies that don't also provide stop sign camera services themselves?
So it's my understanding that part of that answer is no. They're a sole source provider. However, we must remember that before, if we went down this path, an officer will review every citation before, or have to approve it before it's ever issued. The vendor only records the data and sends possible violations to us. And I think we know from our experience that we have an issue with stop sign running in the town. I mean, if we could put a police officer at all 8 of these intersections, I mean, obviously we wouldn't see the same thing because they would see the police car, but from our traffic enforcement and from the complaints we receive from residents, I'm quite sure we know we have issues with people not stopping at stop signs. But to answer your question, I think is that I'm sure there's traffic study people that can come do traffic counts. I don't know that they record violations, but it's my understanding that if the company that we use to do the pilot program is the only company available.
Got it. So you're basically saying that even worst case scenario, if they oversold the problem, we would only be giving violations to people who actually were violating because we would have video evidence.
Right.
Okay.
It's the same as a red light camera per se. We review every potential violation that comes to the police department before it's ever issued to a citizen.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could ask Chief Turner, being that that, as you just said, that an officer reviews the citation, every automated citation that is issued by the town. I believe we added a position previously that was part of the job description, was that we needed them because the sworn officer has to review those citations. If we were to implement a program like this at this scale, would that require additional staffing for the department in order to review those citations?
It may. However, I don't know that if it would have to be sworn or civilian. It may not have to be a sworn officer.
Is that different from the speeding or the red light cameras? Because I know that was what we were told on those where there had to be a sworn officer? And I can take that answer on the back end too, if you don't have it.
It is different, correct.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith, there was state legislation that took away the requirement in the speed camera program this year for it to be a sworn officer, so it can be a civilian at this time. Or
For
maybe
any of these automated enforcement programs?
for speed cameras. I'm not sure about the others.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I make just one general comment?
Please do.
I think that this is really good discussion about this vitally important topic to improve safety in the town. And I just wanted to also share that it's my understanding that if the council were to move forward, these cameras would be all solar powered. So we'd be living up to the vision of being more sustainable. They'll all be a solar powered enforcement tool.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Okay, are there any public questions or comments? I think the council has had a chance to grill Chief Turner. Any public questions or comments? Looks like not. So thank you, Chief Turner. Appreciate the presentation and learning more about this topic. Brings us to presentation number 3, update on fiscal year 2026 proposed operating and CIP budget.
So we have Deputy Director Jones with us, who's going to walk us through any changes to the 26 budget, which is on the agenda for later on this evening. Mr. Jones?
Yes, so since the last time we provided updates, there hasn't been many updates. The one that I'm going to cover is the stormwater improvements project. So we had an additional $100,000 in state grant revenue. However, we also had to reduce the county municipal participation grant by $136,000. This was due to stay in adherence with the GFOA guidelines. So we had falsely recorded that revenue before it's been confirmed. At this point, we haven't confirmed that grant yet. So overall, we have a net reduction in the stormwater improvement project by $36,000. We do still hope to receive that municipal participation grant, but as of now, it hasn't been confirmed. So we did have to reduce that. Doesn't mean that we won't get it, but at this time, again, it has not been confirmed. So we just had to make an update to that particular project. So that's the only update we've actually had since the previous update. The other one before that was when we added the additional $20,000 into the walk, bike, drive safety initiative. We took the undesignated from 80,000 to 100,000. So yeah, that pretty much covers all of the changes that we've had and updates to the budget. If there's any questions regarding those updates, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. Any questions for Deputy Director Jones about the update on the fiscal year 2026 proposed operating and CIP budget? Are there any public comments? Okay, very good. Members of the council, the night is getting a little bit long, and I'm wondering whether we want to go through all of the proclamations at this time, or whether we want to move those to the end of the meeting. Is there a thought on that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to move that we that we alter the agenda to move the proclamations to the end of the agenda.
Okay, is that a motion?
Seconded.
Motion and seconded to move the proclamations 4, 5, 6, and 7 to the end of the meeting. Is there any discussion of this motion by the council? Are there any public comments? We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Calon.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. When we get to the end, someone please remind me. Okay. that, on the adjusted agenda, that brings us to the mayor's report. I think everyone knows we had an election last week, and so this is my last legislative meeting that I'll be chairing as mayor, at least for quite a while. Congratulations to everyone who won in the election last week, and welcome Councilmember-elect Borsnop. I don't know if she's here tonight, but I welcome her onto the council. Mayor-elect Inyang, you have my confidence, you have my full support, and I will answer any calls you make to me 24 hours, 365. Always available. I'll put you on my always punch through the mood list. If I can take just a few minutes, 32 years ago, it was either May or June of 1994. Very young couple was looking for houses, and we thought Prince George's County was a great place to live. It was a more interesting place than the alternatives that people had suggested. And we found a place in Riverdale, a town called Riverdale. It was a town in transition at that time. People were moving out, lots of people were moving in. And so it was also more interesting. And after we closed on the house, we stood on our front porch, and my wife said to me, this was either a really good investment or a really bad one. And little did I know what a fantastic investment it would be. Over the next few years, I met a lot of interesting people. Paul Pinsky showed up at my door, knocked on my door, talked to me for 5 or 10 minutes, having a state senator talk to me on my front porch. It was quite a surprise, unusual in my experience. And so I was interested. Jerry Kiernan, who is no longer with us, he was at that time the Ward 5 representative, wrote an article in the Town Crier about developments going on north of me and what would eventually become the Discovery District after quite a few other name changes. And that got me to my first town council meeting. And so I became interested in local government at town council and did a lot of volunteer work for many years. And then 16 years ago, 16 years and a little bit, Vernon Archer twisted my arm. He twisted it before, but he twisted it harder this time. And I ran for office, and I was elected for Ward 2. And 8 years later, he twisted my arm again, not quite so hard that time, and I ran for mayor. And that's how I got here. During those 16 years, there have been tragedies and triumphs, personal, professional, and municipal. And I could talk up for hours about them, but it's 9:30 and we have plenty of other things to talk about. So I'll just say that what I learned over those years from before being on the council is that listening and learning are necessary prerequisites to lead. That you have to lead from a place of knowledge, and that it's really good to listen to people to find out what they know, what they can share, and learn from them and learn from experts as well. So tonight, this month, it's an end of a chapter in my life, and it's the end of a chapter for the town as well. But as my father said, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, both books will continue. I have a million people to thank, and it would again take the rest of the meeting. So I just want to focus on several groups. I want to thank all the volunteers, personal people, individuals, and businesses who volunteered along the way. I want to thank staff. I want to thank all of the elected officials I've interacted with. I want to thank town manager and the town administrator before him for all the help. Town manager Lestitian, I couldn't have done it without you. And I want to thank my family for both putting up with it and for advising me at various times. It's very common for people to say this. But it's also true. Also true. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve all of you. And I thank you for letting me do that. This concludes. Thank you. Mr. Town Manager, you're up next. Thank you.
Yes, one moment, Mr. Mayor. Let me get over to my report. So I'll begin just as a reminder. There's a virtual meeting coming up on Tuesday, May 13th at 7 p.m. Regarding the Lafayette Avenue, 47th Avenue Streetlight Project. There'll be other opportunities for the community to weigh in as well. So if people aren't able to make the meeting and have concerns, please email your concerns. I believe that Director Lewis right now is out walking, or it looks like she's back in the meeting. She was out walking the meeting after sunset, or the area after sunset, to get an idea of what the lighting is like currently. And then, as has been mentioned, we had the presentation tonight on the two town center projects. There's a meeting, and Director Barnes, it says tentative for Tuesday the 20th. When will that be final?
That's been confirmed just as of Friday afternoon. Yep.
Okay. And and that's to be held at Riverdale Elementary School, so we can have a larger crowd, the same as we did the last time. And so that's, well, I have one other thing. Town Hall and DPW operations will be closed for Memorial Day. Mr. Mayor, thanks. That's as simple as I can say it. Thanks. You're a good man, and I appreciated learning from you. I enjoyed working with you. So with that, I conclude my report.
And I learned from you too, Mr. Town Manager. Let's move on the agenda, monthly finance report.
Mr. Jones.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's finance reports cover the month of April, and then we have the February, March, and then the year-to-date. So for April fiscal year 2025, revenue total $542,707. Expenditures total $819,835, leaving an amount of negative $277,128. The year-to-date for revenue total $10,665,529. Expenditures total $7,693,475, and we have a revenue net expenditure total of $2,972,054. Again, April has a negative revenue net expenditure number because the majority of the revenue has already been received. Currently, we are at 95% of the budgeted revenue amount with roughly 2 months left. For expenditures, just at 69%. Again, town continued to be very conservative with expenditures, especially with all of the uncertainty. So in addition to that, roughly about 7% of those savings are due to the salary savings. So overall, at this point, town is in a favorable financial standing to meet its budgeted revenue and to continue to stay within its budgeted expenditures. And if there are any questions regarding the finance reports, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Director Jones, that revenue number you just stated about and the percentage that you gave, we won't know a full or a precise total until roughly 2 to 3 months after the close of the fiscal year. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, 2 months after. We will continue to receive speed camera revenue as we receive that roughly 2 months after. So we will continue to receive additional revenue that applies to this fiscal year after this fiscal year has concluded.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional council or public questions about this report? May I please have a motion to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit?
So
So
I move the
moved.
motion.
Is there a second? Motion by Councilmember Callan to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit, seconded by Councilmember Smith. Any discussion of this motion? Any public comments? I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Callan?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us to the correspondence summary. Are there items in the correspondence summary that need to be discussed? Just one report from Steve Lamphere, Riverdale Fire Department. So we can bring that up under the fire department report, which is next. Fire department report. Is Mr. Lamphere here?
He's not, Mr. Mayor. And the report also, whoever's controlling the screen, if you can share the report we received from the county. So this was sent over to the town in the same format as the last several reports. I have questions, as I did about, as the council did about other reports, and I did as well in terms of some response times. But if you can move this up just a little bit so we can see the total number of calls and calls handled by others. So in April, there were 71 calls within town, split between fire calls 14, EMS calls 57, and all of the calls were handled by stations other than 807 during the month of April. So what I'm going to recommend is perhaps we get the county and their volunteer station to come back in front of the mayor and council to talk about how things have been over these many months, and ask them to be prepared to address the response times in that presentation.
Okay. I will take a moment to read some highlights out of the report that was submitted by Mr. Lamphere. He congratulates the elected officials, people elected in the, and he says the department is working with neighboring department to develop collaborative staffing models. Will not have specifics for a few months. The ambulance is repaired, been inspected by the county, returned, and is at the county for yet another inspection. There are 8 viable new members already with firefighting and or EMT certifications, and these members are working through the county onboarding process. Having previous state of Maryland training is a huge step forward, but those applicants are not quite there yet. and town staff and county fire chief will be tentatively meeting in late June to discuss progress and plans with the goal of a July or September presentation to the mayor and council. And that concludes the fire department report. Is there any council members want to discuss?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Yang, go ahead.
I think I would appreciate the note and the data of terms of just call volume and response times and who's our biggest responders. If it seems like we're sort of gearing up towards a bigger, more robust early July. I'm not sure if we're going to be in session, but maybe we'll have a special session for it. But
Oh, buddy.
I
That's
think
your call.
I think what I would suggest is not just a conversation about sort of what's been happening to date, but I think it would be well served to have a conversation also about like potential plans moving forward, and so that it's not separate conversations that we have to come back in. I know quickly the conversation will go into, well, what's the plan moving forward? How does it look like? So I would encourage, let's have, if it means we wait a couple weeks to have a more robust conversation about not just what's happened in the past, but a potential path forward that the volunteer company would suggest, that we have that at the same time so we can, I think, hopefully have the conversation we've been teasing for the last year plus.
Teasing.
Okay. Councilor Lingua, did you want to say something?
I think with the number of steps that we have coming forward, in terms, so I agree with Councilmember from Ward 4. I think we're going to have other conversations in our near future that we might be looking at an additional July meeting in order to address this. Because deciding whether or not we're going to work towards working with the House, trying to address the issue of there being a viable operation or not, or just being closed down, is a substantial decision for us to be making.
Indeed.
It's going to take some time.
Okay. The as was discussed at previous meetings, maybe at the work session, the town manager is going to need some guidance before the end of the fiscal year about what to do with this year's grant funding. So please keep that in mind. Okay, let's move along on the agenda to council, committee, and ward reports. Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be quick since I think we probably spent a good hour already talking about Ward 1 in the meeting, and we haven't even gotten to the meat of the agenda yet. Excited to see everyone out on election day coming in to vote, to spend some time with colleagues on the council. Honored, of course, to be joining the next council and working with all of you as we enter the new term. And of course, looking forward to working with the mayor elect and being supportive of whatever we can do to move the town forward. During the mayor's report, I was thinking, if a person were to design the most chaotic and challenging 8 years our town could experience, I wonder how much different that would look than the last 8 years. I guess is not much. And Mr. Mayor, somehow you managed to leave the town better than you found it through all of that. And I'm not sure how much different it would look if we hadn't had you in that position, but I'm betting we would be not in the same shape we are now. And that's a credit to you. I appreciate your partnership, your mentorship, your friendship, and doubly so for all of your family who supported this. And look forward to seeing what's next for you in please don't beat us up too much from the other side of the dais now that you'll be over there. So that's all I have for this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Might be seeing you at Town Center Market more often, so we'll see how that goes. Ward 2, Councilmember Foe.
Mr. Mayor, the past 8 years have been my honor. One of the highlights of my life is I always find myself surrounded by super intelligent people. And I have been better because of that collaboration. The information that I have learned from you is enough to write a book. I think that I bounce every single idea that I have off you. I've always sought guidance from you. I feel blessed to call you a friend. So I just want to say how much that I've loved this time collaborating with you. I have fallen in love with a content that I didn't even know, and that's municipal government. I think I should have got one of the first MMLs I ever went to, Director Barnes. You get to see him in action, and he's just giddy around government. And the first night I was there, we met the United States senators from the state of Maryland, and it was truly, to meet Ben Cardin and Chris Van Hollen, it's truly a political highlight of my life. And to be next to Alan Thompson, who has just amplified above my excitement, I don't know. It brought me to a place where I recognized what drove him. I love our new council moving forward. I've really loved working with Councilmember Smith and Councilmember Inyang and Alan in our texts and our dialogues back and forth. We honestly own the market on ethical government locally. We are informed and we make decisions that benefit our residents. We care, we are compassionate, and we don't cheat or steal. I think that is so dramatically important right now in these times to point to ethical governance. And you, sir, are the representation of that to this town. I admire your public service. I never would have thought that it would take a small town mayor to make me fall in love with local government and what the jobs of our staff and how we assist our residents. It has just been a spectacular experience for me, one that I am eternally grateful for, and one that we hopefully will continue to talk about for years and years. Thank you for leading the way on this town on so many issues. Thank you for being who you are. The relationship has benefited the town of Riverdale Park much more than can ever be said to you. We are just eternally grateful. Thank you so much for your service. You have led the way, and I just hope to follow behind in your footsteps. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, and you will be my council representative. Just remember that.
I know, but I'm still gonna ask you questions how to deal with you. So, that's how it is. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3.
Alan, I could go on with a bunch of accolades, but like you said, it could take the rest of the time of the meeting. I don't think it's so much would be taking the rest of the time of the meeting, but it might get through 1 or 2 bottles of scotch. So let's save that for later. I'm going to get to some ward things here, real brief. Wonderful to see the new playground equipment going in at what is going to be called the Riverside Park. And I can tell already it is going to be a grand hit by the number of kids who have found their way through the compromised fence to get on there and try out all the swings and slides and musical instruments and the balance toys and that, and the moms trying them out too. I'm telling you, they're loving it. And I can't wait to see when over on the other side, when they start putting equipment in there with that flimsy excuse of orange fencing that Park and Planning has put up there, to see how well the kids like that too. So if you could say it's been a soft opening over there, well, yeah, it has been. And we can talk about this more about Park and Planning and their approach to Riverside Neighborhood Park in the later part of this meeting. And I'll conclude that for now.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Councilmember Inyang, Ward 4.
I have a lot of thoughts. I realize that I'm on the hook for a town crier article now that's due probably in a few days. So I will channel a lot of the thoughts that I have into that. I guess for now, I would just say that I appreciate the work that this staff does. I feel like I'm learning a lot just in initial conversations about transition, and I know there's always stuff that's happening all the time, and so I appreciate staff for the work that you do, and I feel like I appreciate all the stuff that I didn't realize the mayor does, and so there's been a lot of talk about what you've done publicly, which is all warranted, but what you do that no one sees besides a handful of people is definitely greatly appreciated. So thank you for that, and I'll conclude my report with that.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Callan, Ward 6.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. May God bless you. You are a good man. You and your family. You are a good man. Even my children, my two daughters, they were asking me, Dad, do you think that the mayor is going to leave? I say, yes. I say, he volunteered to leave for himself. And it is good to leave a job than the job leave you. You are a good man. You have a good heart. This has shown me that you love Riverdale, town of Riverdale. Because when you are giving your report, the emotions that came up, it made me to cry. Thank you. May God bless you. You know, since I knew you, you're a good God person. My grandfather said, he said, if you want to know that people that God love, they always smile. They always smile to people. If you see people that frown in their faces, they say they are satanic people. But since I knew you, you always smile. Even when we are in a meeting, it can never become agitated or become mad or let me say it. But God knows. God made us different. That's why you can see somebody, you don't have nothing, but you have God's heart. You can see somebody have everything in this world, but you don't have God's heart. You never sorry for unprivileged people. You never think they are somebody. But as for you, since I knew you these few years, 2 years almost, you are a good man. My children, they always talk about you. They always, my two daughters. When I told them that you are going to relinquish your position, hey, Dad, why he's doing that? I said, well, it's good to leave the job than the love leave you. So as for me, I will always be in your doorstep, contact you, talk to you, call you. Yes, if you need me, call me. If you want to go to Africa, you want me to go with you, you can go. You go and visit Africa and come back. You see, the world You see, there's a saying. It's a like, you see a cow. To bring a cow near the tree, unless you put rope on her head or his head to draw it and bring it to the tree. But if you go say, I'm going to grip this cow to bring it to the tree over there, it cannot be able unless you put rope on the neck. Now he have put a rope on my neck. I'm in your service at any time. Whether I be a council member in the future or not, I'm in your service. I can never forget you. I will always remember you. You're a good man. Then, if from there, let me talk to a town manager. We have a small problem at 54th Avenue here. The drainage, I think the cover on the drainage, just to make exit come to my own complex, the cover is broken. So, Mr. Town Manager, if you are listening to me, do please, I would like you to come and visit the place tomorrow or send some of your staff how they can maintenance that place because it's so dangerous. The tunnel has become small. They put crones over there. So that's for the town manager. Mr. Outgoing Mayor, say hi to your family members. Say hi to them. You have a beautiful wife, your children, they are always nice. They smile to people. You know, this is how they call human being. And they copy it from you. You like everybody. So if I say I'm going to talk much, we're going to sleep here today. But as for me, I'm in your service at any time. Thank you very much. May God bless you and your family members. I say thanks to all my colleagues from the town manager and staff and the council members and our Secretary General, Mrs. Ban. You are a nice woman. You're so nice like the mayor. Thank you very much. At any time somebody call you, ready to answer the person, like me, because I'm a caller. I always call, ask questions. So thank you, Mrs. Ban. Thank you very much. So I stop over there, Mr. Mayor. I'm in your service.
Thank you for your report, and thank you so much for your kind words. I will answer my phone when you call, unless I'm in the middle of a meeting, which happens way too often. But I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for your kind words. That concludes council, committee, and ward reports. Let's move on to public comments on non-agenda items and consent agenda items. Are there any public comments? I don't see any hands raised or microphones unmuted, so let's move ahead to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is adopted without discussion, so may I please have a motion to approve consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith. I believe the second went to Councilmember Enyang. And we'll move immediately to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Enyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Kalan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. The two items on the consent agenda are adopted. Next item on the agenda is a legislative action item, and it's a big one. May I please have a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-OR-03 regarding the fiscal year 2026 budget and tax rates.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Kalan. Is there discussion of this motion by the council?
Briefly, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Please do.
I'd like to thank staff and everyone involved in putting this document together. As always, exemplary piece of work. And with everything that is going on, let's hope that all the experience we've had before in putting together this budget pays off and we come through this fiscal year in a good position for the years to come.
Thank you, council member. Any additional council discussion of the motion to adopt ordinance 2025-OR-03? Are there any public comments on the motion to adopt ordinance 2025-OR-03? Seeing no unmuted microphones or no hands raised, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Kellon.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. We have a budget for 26. Moving on to unfinished business, fiscal year 2025 budget, community grants, slide item 8701, fire department. This is bringing up the topic that came up under the fire department report earlier. I believe we've seen the report. Council, does someone want to make a motion? Or does council want to discuss before having a motion? Or does council want to not make a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
I guess the discussion is, I know last time we left this was around what to do with the funds, and I think there were a couple different options. Is your question, like, the motion would have to be specific in terms of like where the money would go, right?
Mr. Town Manager, do you have suggestions for I mean, it says there's a staff recommendation to be grant be divided.
Yes, so whether that's done this evening or done in June, I just need direction what to do with the funds. From my perspective, it should be specific enough that staff can make it actionable. So if it's to split the funds among those who have responded. There was discussion at the last meeting about having funds portion go to 807 with very specific requirements in terms of the use of the funds. Staff doesn't have a position on that. The only thing that's new this evening is information we received from the county, which essentially says that 807 has handled 2 calls since June.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. So we don't need a motion tonight. This can wait for the new council to take their seats in June. But it sounds like the town manager would like some direction on what to bring to the council, new council. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Sure. And apologies if this was discussed in the last meeting in my absence. But in terms of if the funds are to be distributed to other stations that respond to our calls, is the administrative mechanisms in place for that? Like, could we call them up and say we have money for you, and they'd be ready to accept it, or would they need to apply to the town for the grant? How would that work exactly?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
From the staff perspective, we would follow whatever distribution that the council directs. But I know from talking with, not on this topic, but talking with at least one of the volunteer companies that is handling calls in town, my understanding is they would readily accept a check, and I think all the volunteer groups would.
Understood. Thank you.
Any additional council discussion? Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My initial thought is just so that we have leeway in case this discussion goes on longer, is earmark the amount of money and shift it over to the line item that we have, the $100,000 contingency line item. Park the amount there until we can make a decision based on, as I had mentioned before, after the discussions in June, as well as talking with county, and give us time to figure out how we're moving forward with this station.
Okay, I'm gonna let the town manager respond to that.
And we certainly can do that if directed by the council for fiscal 26.
Yeah.
But for fiscal 25, if the funds are not expended in some directed way, then the funds will be absorbed back into the general fund.
And will survive into the fiscal 26.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that happening.
It would not be allocated
Yes,
funds in fiscal 26.
but the money will not disappear into thin air. It will just show
No.
up as an additional carryover budget.
Yeah.
Yes. Just for clarity, not in our spending plan for 26, but it would grow the fund balance by that amount.
And it would be possible for the council in fiscal 26 to spend from the contingency fund to expend give money to various organizations if that was the decision of the council.
Absolutely, sir.
But no, that would happen just if the council does nothing until July or September. So the council doesn't need to take a specific action except to advise you that you should not distribute the money to.
And that's where I was going to go, Mr. Mayor, because it is budgeted this year. I've held off because I had concerns, and I would like a confirmation from the council in terms of my decision not to distribute the funds. If the council's not going to distribute anything in 25, I would appreciate a vote in that direction.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Berlingua.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. If the J I'm seeing in the participation list is the J I'm thinking of, sir, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, sir, Mr. Lingwood. This is the J Johns that you were thinking of.
Okay. I'd appreciate to hear what you have to say.
So currently, we are working with the department. We're still trying to compile all the data from the county's new recruitment system that they have and management system to try to get actual factual numbers for everything. I believe the president said that there was 8 that are in the onboarding phase that have training. I know there's a few other issues as far as like the ambulance goes, from being repaired and inspected and to be able to be put back in service. That is a operational issue and a logistical issue between the department and the county that they are between the chief and the president that I know they are working on to try to have an ambulance in the station. I've also been in the process of checking the numbers that the county is providing versus the actual numbers of calls that have been ran to try to verify and work that out as well to answer any questions as far as stations that are volunteer stations that are running calls within the town limits. As I spoke at the last meeting, a number of the ALS calls that are dispatched within the town are answered by county supplied personnel, career personnel that are paid for by the county and by our tax dollars to respond to those calls. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have really to say on it. Unless anybody has any questions, open to answer them the best I can.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Any additional council questions or comments or discussion or questions for Mr. Johns?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Lengua, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Johns, what would your recommendation to the council be in regards to this $23,000 amount that we should consider?
I understand both sides of it. I understand the side from Riverdale, from the department side. I understand as a citizen of the town. I think that splitting it is not the worst idea. I would also say that anything, that money that goes towards is given to Riverdale Fire Department would be earmarked for recruitment issues, things like that. I know that it was earmarked in the past for other issues, but I don't know what it's been lately. So if the council would like, or at whatever meeting, I could probably come up with a little bit better split for that, if you would like.
Okay. Do you think you would be able to come up with data for the council in the later part of June, which at that time, based on that and other information that we receive, we could make a decision on by then?
Yes, I'm confident I would have more information, numbers, and statistics by the end of June for everything.
Okay.
Councilmember Lengua, Councilmember Enyang has his hand up. Can he speak?
I've concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Enyang.
I'm of the belief that the fund should go to folks who have supported us. But if this meeting that we've been hinting at of happening is going to happen a few weeks from now, like a month or so from now, I'd be in favor of rolling the funds to next year and whatever the town staff thought was appropriate. To at least buy us some time to have that conversation, though I feel like personally, the funds for FY25 should go for those who have sort of supported us. But I know the town staff needs direction now, and at 10:15, starting the conversation on what we should do might keep us here for another 2 hours or so.
Thank you, Councilmember Enyang. Nova Johns has sent me a request in the chat to speak. So I'm going to recognize her next. Ms. Johns?
Hi, yes, I'm going to have to comment through Nova. Through Jay's phone because I'm having technical issues. Yes, Nova Johns, Ward 3 resident, also an administrative volunteer at the station. I just want to, I can't speak for the fire department, but as a member and also as a resident of the town, this beautiful town of Riverdale Park, I would like to persuade the vote towards 100, at least for the fiscal year 26, or yes, it would be 26, or excuse me, 25. I would like to persuade the vote to be 100% reallocated to Company 7. I know it speak of those who support us, but I also believe support comes in different ways other than numbers on a paper of how many calls they run. I believe, and I've also supported through the fire department, through the town, with non-call related events and participation within the town. That includes visiting the elementary school, participating in career day at the elementary school, multiple events in town. That takes people, that takes our presence as a fire department. And I feel like the conversation in regards to this fund is in what Company 7 is doing as far as call volume. The non-call volume stuff is taking a back step to all of this discussion. And that makes me sad because I was a active fire and EMS participant up into a medical event and also having children, of which I then took a back step and am now unable to contribute to that part of the fire department. However, there are people who are, whether they're riding or not, contribute to the bigger picture. And again, that takes funds, that takes time. I know I personally have given, and at least in the last 7 days, I have personally given 6 hours of volunteer time, of which that doesn't get any credit because you guys aren't seeing anything out in service. But my time is just as valuable as getting something on an apparatus and out the door. And I feel like it's kind of, it's not being demonstrated well with us looking for numbers of call. I know we are all pushing to get everything back in service, to get the operational members picked up and applications done, but that comes with people who push the paperwork behind the scenes that do not get on the calls. And that would be myself along with a handful of others. We met after last meeting. I met to explain the town meeting because everyone doesn't always get on the town meeting, and I wish they would. I'm working on that part, but I need them to everyone needs to document how many hours we put into that place, because it's not getting displayed accurately to you guys. We want to be able to do stuff at the farmers market, but that also comes with funds that we can't use out of other budgets because those monies are reallocated. I know it was talked about the 400,000. That's earmark. You can only use that for certain things like repair and maintenance on apparatus. It doesn't translate into the items that we need to purchase to be able to give to the community when we show up at these events. The other items that need to happen. I know I personally do, and I'm not the only one. We enjoy showing up to these events and being part of the community with you guys. I live here and I do not want, without getting upset, I feel like the mayor tonight. I don't want the doors to shut. I mean, I can't provide that part of the service. I can't do the operational part, but I can do the administrative side of it. I can do the community support part of it, along with other people who are there who are also willing to help. You just need direction for that type of stuff. I didn't enjoy over the weekend. My sister has stage 4 cancer and she resides here with us, but she didn't feel like she needed the ambulance, but she just needed oxygen. And I took her there. And I don't like, it's close, it's home, it's here. And I don't want the doors to close or the opportunity for it to grow, whether it's us demanding as town residents and town council that the county put back in career staffing to help supplement. It's there, the resources are there. But I know you guys we've already been on the meeting for long enough, but I do want you guys to understand that there is so much more than the operational side of running a volunteer department that does not always get communicated or displayed appropriately or accurately. So just please consider that in moving forward. I know obviously you'll have the more technical and statistical stuff from President Lanphier, Chief Carpio, and with Jay starting to assist and be able to be more vocal in town meeting. But just consider that there's so much more that gets done, even if it looks like the lights are out and all the doors are shut. So just please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johns. Appreciate your comment. Councilmember Foe.
Jay and Nova, I do appreciate your commentary here tonight. Like the thing that you guys have to understand is that we have an open invite for President Lanphier to appear at this meeting every single month that we host a meeting, and we're lucky if we get anything at all. The representation that you guys have shown us in the last two meetings it truly causes me to empathize for the goodness of the department and everything like that. But like, we're not seeing that. And I am down for a dialogue moving forward. Councilmember Smith and I have discussed previously before. He is, I won't steal his words. He is a supporter of educational outreach and the things that you talked about. I'm sorry, council member. And we've advocated on behalf of that. It's just the lack of information coming from the House. It doesn't allow us to feel that we are engaging in a process that is benefiting our community. Like the idea of having an ambulance that can at least sometimes pull out of the garage and help people is truly miraculous. I love that concept and construct and want to support that with all of my heart. It's just not happening. And it hasn't been happening for 12 months. I'm glad to hear of the assistance that you guys are now offering. I've had honest dialogues with both of you at a previous meeting on election days. This has been powerful. Simultaneously, we have to make these decisions based on what has occurred in fiscal year 25. And I do believe that the assistance that we are receiving from outside volunteers deserves to be recognized as well. It's difficult when you get so little of the information that is needed to continue to support this. That being said, I love talking to you guys, and continuing this dialogue is important.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Johns, for all of your comments. I've taken them into consideration, and I want to say I do apologize for missing this conversation in the last meeting that I was absent for. And I enjoyed speaking with y'all at the polls last week. The council member from Ward 2 mentioned we've sort of talked about this a lot. I, for one, I think there is value in the fire department. And Mr. Mayor, you and I have had this conversation as well. As a civic institution, if nothing else, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the oldest firehouse in the county. We were the first to have a fire engine such as it was. I think it looks more like a wheelbarrow these days, but that's a historic artifact, and we love that. We have talked about other things that the fire department could do to the point of the residents, and I'm just spitballing here. I don't know if the capacity to do this exists, but if that company existed purely as a community outreach to go to schools and career days and invite community members in to climb through the fire trucks and get excited about fire safety and these things, I think that would be a worthwhile use of the money. I think that would be great, if we could provide that community resource. To my colleague from Ward 2's point, though, we've asked many times, just to have information come in. There is a agenda item every single meeting for the fire department report. Until recently, we were lucky if we gotten anything written, much less anyone in attendance. And I get it. It's a volunteer company. You guys, as you so well articulated, Ms. Johns, devote your time on a volunteer basis. I know that folks can't show up necessarily every single meeting, but to go months and months just asking for the small, like, if I were in a situation where someone were going to cut off my funding, I would extend a little bit more effort to get anything in to that body. And for the most part, we haven't seen that. I'm encouraged to hear that folks are getting more involved in the fire department now. And hopefully some of those things could change. And I would love nothing more than, a year from now to approve a grant to Company 7. As far as I know, the station would be available to continue to request this grant in the future if the House gets in order. But as it stands for a long period of time, I know I have actively searched for any excuse, any reason to continue resourcing this department, and have been met largely with silence. So, I hate it, but here we are. We have funds that need to get allocated, and I think those should go to folks that have been supporting our community, respond to those calls. If we do want to split, which I'm not opposed to, having a portion of that go to Company 7 with very clear instructions on what it's to be spent on and very clear reporting requirements for how it's spent and what the results have been. That's a conversation I'm open to. I'm just really disappointed in the amount of, despite trying to pull information out of the department, the amount that, or the lack of an amount that we have been able to get from there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Mr. Town Manager.
Mayor? I was going to ask Mr. Town Manager a question.
Please go ahead.
You need directions by the June 2nd meeting?
By the June 16th meeting.
Okay.
So the second meeting in June is early, and so I would need direction no later than June 16th.
And that would be a adopted motion on June 16th in order to give you time to expend the funds.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I think sounds like we still have some discussing to do. So I don't think the council is ready to give a strong direction at this time, and there'll be a new council member on June 2nd to perhaps weigh in with some different ideas. So we'll see. Any additional discussion under this? Any additional public comments or council discussion? Okay, this will presumably be on the work session agenda for next week also, Mr. Town Manager, is that correct?
I believe so, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's move on. Unfinished business item number 2, letter regarding Riverside Neighborhood Park. This is yours, Councilmember Lingua.
Yes. Yes, it is. Initially, it started out as talking about a letter, directing a letter to Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, their Department of Parks and Recreation, regarding their removal, their continued closure of the restroom facilities, which it appears that they have renovated. At least the exterior looks done. I don't think anyone has seen the interior, so we can't be sure whether or not those have been done. And B, the fact that when the park is becoming more active and more use, any type of amenity, bathroom amenity is removed. After having these items out there through the fall and the winter time. As I mentioned before earlier about folks down at the park today trying out the new playground equipment, I watched 2 young girls wanting to try and use a restroom, and they could not use a restroom. And I really felt for them. Again, I just see it as just very unconscionable. And what it led me to think also is that there just seems to be a pattern here as well with park and planning, at least what I'm observing at this park, and I'm only going to speak for this park, that while it is nice that they did put in a new backstop, and that is appreciated, and while it is nice that they are putting in new playground equipment in the two locations, and that is appreciated as well, the fact remains that the way they go about doing renovation projects or restoration projects seems to be, put it nicely, haphazard. They still have a sign up for the main field that it's closed for renovation. That sign has been up there since 2016. And that field gets used regularly. The fact that they have the restroom has been closed for about the same amount of time due to what they say is because there's been vandalism there. And yes, there was vandalism there. That was 8 years ago. And do you just shut off a facility about that, for that amount of time? I mean, it's not a good use of a facility. It's not a way to approach an issue by closing down an amenity that is really vital to park use and anywhere. And third, if I may, let me finish. I'll be quick. What I'm now seeing that I mentioned in my report about this renovation of the two playground areas. The chain link fence around the main area they're working on now has been compromised. It's been that way now since Friday. And it seems no one at Park and Planning has been down to address it. The fencing around, quote unquote, fencing around the other park area is just orange mesh that anyone can walk over right now. And it just does not seem that they are addressing this in a conscientious, proper way. Were this a private site and an inspector came by, it would be addressed. It would be cited. But as it is now, that's not the case. And these items, it's just this pattern that I'm seeing, that it seems that there's just not a coordinated, thought out, monitored approach to amenity development at this park. And I think it is for us, for the sake of the residents around here, to send a letter expressing these concerns.
Thank you, Council Member. Do you wish to make a specific motion at this time?
Motion to send a letter to Maryland National Capital, Park and Planning Association, Department of Parks and Recreation, Maintenance and Development, whatever the official title is, addressing the concerns I've brought up here, and any others that council cares to include.
So if I may, I would recommend sending the letter to the commission and to Commission Chair Shapiro in particular.
Okay.
And it will be handled from there. And the three topics you have brought up that are specific items, just to be clear again, include the sign stating that the field is closed, the lack of safety enclosures around apparently incomplete playground equipment, and the continued closure of the toilets, and you just say that all of these issues should be addressed as quickly as possible.
Well, yeah, I would think it's just like those are three supporting points to an overall theme that there is just a not fully well thought out and coordinated approach to affording amenities, restoring and affording amenities to the community in a way that is proper as opposed to what we're seeing now.
Okay. I think, well, I think I have a motion that I understand at least on the floor at this time. And so is there a second to the motion?
Seconded.
Okay. If I may just speak a few seconds, then the letter would address the three specific points that I brought up. And I think in the introduction, we could put the statement that you say of wanting to say that the completion of repair and enhancement projects seems to be much slower and not well coordinated and those topics. So that would be my thought. And now I will open the floor to council discussion. Do you wish to add anything as the maker of the motion, Councilmember Lingua?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Foe.
Mr. Mayor, I am empathetic to the council member's plight because I've been on the council every time he's brought up the unworking restrooms at the park. I think the letter should include a historical reference to, the sign being there since 2016, the bathrooms never being open. If you see some of the parks that they have, and I know I've echoed this sentiment before, but some of the parks in Montgomery County are the most ridiculously clean and accessible places that I have ever seen in my life. And we're expected, like, vandalism destroys our hopes of having parks. I just think there should be some call to the historical representation that Councilmember Lingua has brought up, because this has been going on for 10 years and probably longer.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to note, in response to both of my colleagues from wards 2 and 3, Prince George's County also has some of the most incredible, amazing, well-resourced parks in our region. And it's interesting to me what areas of the county those parks are well-maintained and gets fixed quickly, and which areas of the county they are not. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Town Manager, do you feel like you have enough material that staff can draft a letter?
Yes, and Director Barnes and I have already communicated on that.
Okay, very good. Is there additional council discussion?
My thanks to the staff. Thank you.
Are there any public comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Kellon.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us to the new item under unfinished, the public comment period on town center street sidewalk and trolley path redesign. The suggestion that I heard during the presentation from Councilmember Lingua was that the public comment period be extended beyond Trolley Trail Day. And Trolley Trail Day, I believe, is the 14th. Is that correct?
That is.
So do you want to extend the council is having a work session on the 16th? Is that correct, Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, there is a meeting on the 16th. Can I make a recommendation, Mr. Mayor?
Certainly.
Director Barnes and I, since the earlier part of the meeting, have communicated, and what we would like to do is to be as inclusive as we can be in all of these efforts. And we both, from the staff perspective, like the suggestion about trying to get input at Trolley Trail Day. And so what Ms. Barnes is going to do is have staff work to have information both available and to receive input, whether that's comment cards or depends on what staff we have available for that day, and extend the public input until the 20th of June. And if the council is good with that, I don't think we need formal direction from the council. It's just an operational plan. But if that meets the concerns, then we would certainly enact that.
Okay. Councilmember Ligwood, does that satisfy?
I am good with that.
Good suggestion, council member.
Thank you.
Any other council discussion? Or are we good with this topic?
I would I'm all for it. I am concerned about if anything, I personally think it would be valuable to get input, not just on all three options or anything that you can think of, and really sort of focus in whether it's eliminating options or suggesting like this is what's sort of in favor right now, so people can kind of think more critically. I think it's the too much choice in some ways. I think some of the feedback isn't as good, especially since we've been talking about this for a while. If a person's not familiar with it, that's one thing. But to say, there are thoughts like the leading contender is a traffic circle for the Nantoli place. Like, what are your thoughts on that? I think that would get sort of garner richer feedback than just we're doing these projects. What are your thoughts? We should bury the power lines. Okay, great. But there's a reality that we have been on this journey for months, if not years. And so I'm all for sort of taking an advantage of literally getting feedback in the place where we're talking about impacting. I think that makes perfect sense. But I think I would personally sort of suggest, my suggestion to staff would be, let's not just have it be open to anyone or in terms of like completely open-ended, but at least give some type of direction in terms of like where, maybe council is leaning. I think to sort of help gain impact and feedback on some of the items, so that we don't, I personally think that'd be more productive.
We will make sure that whatever feedback is collected or inputs collected will be valuable in analyzing and providing additional information to the council.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional discussion on this topic, or are we done? Looks good. Okay. Let's move on then to new business, fiscal year 2025 budget amendments.
Deputy Director Jones is going to walk us through this discussion. There's no action requested this evening. This is our annual housekeeping to make adjustments in the current year based upon things that have occurred. Deputy Director Jones.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. So yes, as the town manager mentioned, the amendments to the fiscal year 2025 budget are to apply to two areas. The first being new grants that we received for fiscal year 2025. So here we have a list of the grants. Anacostia Heritage Trails area. We have the Maryland Department of Emergency Management, state and local cybersecurity grant. Maryland Department of Emergency Management, state and local cybersecurity grant. We have the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, a community program fund grant. Chesapeake Bay Trust, we have two of those. Prince George's County Stormwater Stewardship, one for $89,000 and another $420,000. The next change that we have will be reflected for the speed cameras. If we scroll down, we can get the totals there. So the proposed amendment will increase the revenues and the expenditures by $225,000. And this accounts for the anticipated increase in revenue and the expenses that also accompany those revenues. And yeah, that pretty much summarizes the amendments that we have proposed. And if there are any questions regarding these two, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. Council members, any questions or comments? Awfully quiet. Any public questions or comments on these amendments to the fiscal year 2025 budget?
Sorry, before my screen was being bulky. I have no questions.
Very good. Mr. Listician, Mr. Deputy Director Jones, Town Manager Listician, please prepare legislation for the June meeting and presumably to be discussed next week at the work session.
Yes, and I actually believe, Mr. Mayor, we're going to request a special next week to introduce this, and then because it has to be effective prior to the end of the month. So we would need to introduce next week, approve on the 2nd to be effective before the end of June.
Okay, so I may have one more meeting with voting in it. So we'll just see how that goes. Okay, that brings us to the end of new business. I forgot to ask, are there any other items of unfinished business or new business? And I remember I have proclamations.
No. And I heard the betting line at the MGM Grand on the over-under for additional meetings is 1.5.
Very good. Okay, well, I will then go back up on the agenda to the proclamations and start reading. Starting first with National Police Week 2025. Whereas police officers embody the highest ideals of service and sacrifice, risking their lives each day to uphold the rule of law, preserve public safety, and safeguard the rights and freedoms of all individuals. And whereas law enforcement officers are the dedicated guardians of our communities, selflessly devoting themselves to protecting and serving with courage, integrity, and honor. And whereas Police Week provides an opportunity to honor the memory of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty, paying tribute to their courage, valor, and selflessness, and expressing gratitude for their profound contributions to our society. And whereas Police Week also serves as a time to express appreciation for the unwavering commitment and resilience of law enforcement officers who confront adversity with unwavering resolve, compassion, and empathy, and strive to make our communities safer, stronger, and more resilient. And whereas the town of Riverdale Park is deeply grateful to the courageous officers of Riverdale Park under the leadership of Chief Robert Turner, who selflessly put themselves in harm's way to protect our town, our families, and defend our community. Now, therefore, I, Alan K. Thompson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the town of Riverdale Park, Maryland, do hereby proclaim May 11th through 17th, 2025 as National Police Week. Y ahora en español, proclamación Semana Nacional de la Policía, considerando que los agentes de policía personifican los ideales más elevados del servicio y sacrificio, arriesgando de vidas diariamente para proteger el Estado y Estado de Derecho, mantener la seguridad pública y resguardar los derechos y libertades de todos los individuos, y considerando que los agentes del orden son los guardianes dedicados de nuestras comunidades y se dedican desinteresadamente a proteger y recibir con violencia, integridad y honor, y considerando que la Semana de la Policía ofrece la posibilidad de honrar a aquellos que han realizado el máximo sacrificio en el cumplimiento del deber, reconociendo de su coraje, valentía y altruismo, y expresando agradecimiento por sus significativas contribuciones a nuestra sociedad, y considerando que la Semana de la Policía también es un momento para expresar gratitud por el compromiso y la resiliencia de los agentes del orden que enfrentan la adversidad con determinación, compasión y empatía, y trabajan para fortalecer y hacer más seguras nuestras comunidades. Considerando que la ciudad de Riverdale Park expresa su profundo agradecimiento a los valientes oficiales de Riverdale Park, liderados por el jefe Robert Turner, quienes se expusieron desinteresadamente para proteger la ciudad, las familias y defender la comunidad. Por lo tanto, yo, Alan K. Thompson, en mi capacidad de alcalde de la ciudad de River Park, Maryland, proclamo oficialmente que del 11 al 17 de mayo de 2025 se celebrará la Semana Nacional de la Policía. Muchas gracias. And next is proclamation in recognizing National Public Works Week. Give me just a moment. There we go. National Public Works Week 2025. Whereas the theme of the 65th Annual National Public Works Week is People, Purpose, Presence, and whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to our sustainable and resilient community, as well as the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the residents of Riverdale Park. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our infrastructure, public buildings, and other structures and facilities that are essential for our residents. And whereas it is in the public interest for residents, businesses, civic leaders, visitors, and especially our children in Riverdale Park to gain knowledge of and to maintain ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in our neighborhoods. And whereas 2025 marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Riverdale Park Mayor and Council do hereby proclaim the week of May 18 through 24, 2025 as National Public Works Week in the Town of Riverdale Park and call upon all residents to recognize the substantial contribution that public works employees make to protect our town's health, safety, and quality of life. Y ahora en español, Proclamación Semana Nacional de las Obras Públicas 2025. Considerando el tema de las 65 Semana Nacional de Obras Públicas es el pueblo, propósitos, presencia, y considerando los profesionales de obras públicas se centran en la infraestructura, las instalaciones y los servicios que son de vital importancia para nuestra comunidad sostenible y resiliente, así como para la salud pública, la alta calidad de vida y el bienestar de los residentes de Riverdale Park. Y considerando que esta infraestructura, instalaciones y servicios se no podrían proporcionar sin los esfuerzos dedicados de los profesionales de obras públicas que son responsables de reconstruir, mejorar y proteger nuestra infraestructura, edificios públicos y otras estructuras y instalaciones esenciales para nuestros residentes. Y considerando que este interés público que los residentes, las empresas, los líderes cívicos, los visitantes y especialmente nuestros niños en Riverdale Park obtengan conocimiento y mantengan un interés y comprensión continuos sobre la importancia de las obras públicas y los programas de obras públicas en nuestros vecindarios. Y por cuanto 2025 marca la 65 Semana Nacional de Obras Públicas anual patrocinado por la Asociación Estadounidense de Obras Públicas y Asociación Canadiense de Obras Públicas. Ahora, por lo tanto, se resuelve que el alcalde y el consejo de la ciudad de Riverdale Park proclaman por lo presente la semana del 18 al 24 de mayo de 2025 como Semana Nacional de Obras Públicas en la ciudad de Riverdale Park y exhortan a todos los residentes a reconocer las contribuciones sustanciales que los empleados de obras públicas realizan para proteger la salud, la seguridad y la calidad de vida de nuestra ciudad. Very nice proclamation. Next proclamation is in honor of Asian Pacific Heritage Month 2025. Proclamation in honor of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month 2025. whereas Asian Pacific American Heritage Month has been observed annually during May to recognize the contributions and influence of Asian Americans and Pacific Islander Americans. And whereas today more than 20 million Asian American Pacific Islanders live in the United States and through their actions make the United States of America a more vibrant, prosperous, and secure nation. And whereas a vast diversity of languages, religions, and cultural traditions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders is continuously fostered to strengthen the fabric of American society. And whereas throughout our nation's history, Americans of Asian and Pacific Islander descent have made significant contributions to the growth and strength of our communities, from science, business, and politics to literature and the arts. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islanders of all backgrounds have set inspiring examples as leaders and trailblazers, unified by a common hope for civil rights, equal treatment, and a better treatment for all Americans. And whereas the Federal Asian Pacific American Council has designated the theme for AAPI Heritage Month 2025 as a legacy of leadership and resilience, and the FAPAC embraces a legacy of leadership and resilience as both a tribute and a call to action. This theme honors the achievements of those who have paved the way while igniting the passions of those who will follow. Through this theme, the mission to strive to continue to break barriers, honor traditions, and inspire the next generation of AAPI leaders continues. And whereas the town of Riverview Park is a diverse community, and by recognizing the contributions and accomplishments of Asian and Pacific Islanders, our town celebrates the importance of inclusion to building a brighter future for all of our residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Riverview Park Mayor and Council do hereby proclaim May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and call on everyone in our community to observe May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Ahora en español, una proclamación en honor al mes de la herencia americana, asiática y del Pacífico 2025. Considerando que el mes de la herencia americana, asiática y del Pacífico se ha observado anualmente durante el mes de mayo para reconocer las contribuciones y la influencia de los estadounidenses de origen asiático y de las islas del Pacífico. Y considerando que en la actualidad más de 20,000 millones de estadounidenses de origen asiático y isleño del Pacífico viven en los Estados Unidos y con sus acciones hacen que los Estados Unidos de América sean una nación más vibrante, próspera y segura. Y considerando que la gran diversidad de idiomas, religiones y tradiciones culturales de los asiático-americanos e isleños del Pacífico se promueve continuamente para fortalecer el tejido de la sociedad estadounidense. Y considerando que a lo largo de la historia de nuestra nación, los estadounidenses de origen asiático y isleño del Pacífico han realizado importantes contribuciones al crecimiento y la fortaleza de nuestras comunidades, desde la ciencia, los negocios y la política hasta la literatura y las artes. Y considerando que los estadounidenses de origen asiático y de las islas del Pacífico de todos los orígenes han dado ejemplos inspiradores como líderes y pioneros unidos por una esperanza común de derechos civiles, tratamiento uniforme y un futuro mejor para todos los estadounidenses. Y considerando que el Consejo Federal Asiático Pacífico Americano ha designado el tema del mes de la herencia AAPI 2025 como un legado de liderazgo y resiliencia, y el FAPAC lo adoptó como un homenaje y un llamado a la acción. Este tema honra los logros de quienes han allanado el camino y al mismo tiempo han despertado la pasión de quienes los seguirán. A través de este tema continúa la misión de esforzamos por seguir rompiendo barreras, honrar las tradiciones y inspirar la próxima generación de líderes AAPI. Y considerando que la ciudad de Riverview Park es una comunidad diversa y al reconocer las contribuciones y logros de asiático-americanos y de las islas del Pacífico, nuestra ciudad celebra la importancia de la inclusión para construir un futuro mejor para todos nuestros residentes. Ahora, por lo tanto, se resuelve que el alcalde y el consejo de la ciudad de River Park proclaman por la presente el mes de mayo como el mes de la herencia asiática y de las islas del Pacífico y pidan a todos en nuestra comunidad que absorban el mes de mayo como el mes de la herencia asiática y de las islas del Pacífico con programas, ceremonias y actividades apropiadas. And last but not least is proclamation in recognition of Building Safety Month 2025. Whereas the town of Riverdale Park is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serves our residents, both in everyday life and in times of disaster. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these individuals are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, energy efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. And whereas Game On, the theme for Building Safety Month 2025, encourages all of us to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Alan K. Thompson, Mayor of the town of Riverdale Park, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Building Safety Month. And I will just say there's a lot of specialized vocabulary in there, so here goes the Spanish version. Ahora en español. Proclamación Mes de la Seguridad en la Construcción 2025. Considerando que la ciudad de Riverdale Park se compromete a reconocer que nuestro crecimiento y fortaleza depende de la seguridad y el valor económico de las viviendas, edificios e infraestructura que sirvan a nuestros residentes, tanto en la vida cotidiana como en tiempos de desastre, y considerando que nuestra confianza en la resiliencia de estos edificios que componen nuestra comunidad se logra a través de la dedicación de los funcionarios de seguridad y prevención de incendios, arquitectos, ingenieros, constructores, comerciantes, profesionales de diseño, obreros, plomeros y otros en la industria de construcción que trabajan durante todo el año para garantizar la construcción segura de edificios. Y considerando que estas personas son miembros dedicados del International Code Council, una organización sin fines de lucro que reúne a funcionarios locales, estatales y federales que son expertos en el entorno construido para crear e implementar códigos de la más alta calidad para protegernos en los edificios donde vivimos, aprender, trabajar, jugar, y considerando que estos códigos de construcción modernos incluyen salvaguardas para proteger el público de peligros tales como huracanes, tormentas de nieve, tornados, incendios forestales, inundaciones y terremotos. Y considerando que el mes de la seguridad de la construcción es patrocinada por el International Code Council, para recordar al público sobre el papel fundamental de los protectores de la seguridad pública, en gran parte desconocidos de nuestras comunidades, nuestros funcionarios de códigos locales, que nos aseguran seguridad, sustentabilidad, eficiencia energética y habitabilidad, edificios que son esenciales para la prosperidad de Estados Unidos, y considerando que empieza el juego, el tema del mes de la seguridad en las construcciones 2025 nos anima a todos a crear conciencia sobre la seguridad y la construcción a escala personal, local y global. Y considerando que cada año, en observancia del mes de la seguridad en la construcción, se les pide a todas las personas de todo el mundo que consideren el compromiso de mejorar la seguridad, resiliencia y la inversión económica en los edificios, en el hogar y la comunidad, y que reconozcan el servicio esencial que se nos brinda a todos por los departamentos de construcción locales y estatales, las oficinas de prevención de incendios y las agencias federales para proteger vidas y propiedades. Ahora, por lo tanto, yo, Alan K. Thompson, alcalde de la ciudad de River Park, por lo presente proclamó el mes de mayo de 2025 como el mes de la seguridad en la construcción. Many thanks. Muchas gracias. That brings us to the end of the agenda. May I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Lingua to adjourn. This motion is neither debated nor discussed. I will move immediately to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Enyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Callan? Councilmember Callan? You're muted.
I wish I would have voted no.
Would you like to amend your vote?
No, I'm good.
Councilmember Callan seems to be having technical difficulties. We'll accept his vote as an abstention, and I will also abstain. The motion passes 4-0. We are adjourned at 11:12 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Always
Good
a
night.
pleasure. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.